Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bxb'S Bits and Bobs, episode 43, in which Richard deals with a dog in heat. So, this is why Richard was running a little bit late for this interestingly different episode, because you can see there's only Richard with us right now, but Joel will be joining us shortly. We're doing the split because there's some stuff me and Richard want to talk about that Joel would find immensely boring, and then there's stuff me and Joel will talk about at the end when Richard has to leave a little bit early that Richard would find immensely boring. So I feel let's not put my lovely co-host through any more suffering than is required. Isn't that lovely of me, Richard?
Well, it is, but I kind of feel you've undersold the show to anyone listening. The beginning and the end will be shit.
Well, no, because I find all of these things exciting and interesting. It's just you people don't have good taste. So I'm trying my best to cater to everyone. You know, it's difficult, but it's the burden I bear. It's the burden I bear. I just want to say, well, Richard, you were away last week. You were away 2 weeks ago, I should say. You were in Germany. How was that?
It was fantastic. I went to Berlin for a week, courtesy of my awesome wife, who took me away for my 40th birthday. And Berlin's great. Yeah, there's loads of stuff to do there. It's like a proper European city, which is nice.
Sorry, European.
European.
What's that? We don't believe in that in the UK. What's European again?
We do. We just we're told that we don't, but we'll realise soon that we actually do. But yeah, while we're still allowed to go to places like that, brilliant. Had a good time. Saw lots of museums.
I just like the idea that when we leave Europe, the EU, they'll just put up like some kind of force field to prevent us from leaving the country. I think that might be the best way to deal with us people, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's only fair.
I do agree.
Why should they put up with us any longer than they have to?
So you enriched yourself culturally and sort of in other beautiful ways. I'm imagining while in Berlin, home of the Nazis,
and made a pauper of myself in other ways. Yeah, it's not really home of the Nazis, is it?
Not anymore. I feel we probably have more, and America probably has more than they do in Germany.
I think that's probably right. And it was quite depressing to go around their history museum and see how on the nose they tackle their... they don't gloss over it. They learn from that shit. And, you know, I hope we're not in a position where we have to do something similar in a few years in this country.
I suppose it'd be a moment of real shame for them that they're, eternally regretful of, embarrassed by, humiliated by. And, because obviously they made a terrible mistake in letting that happen. They feel that. They still feel that. Because it was such recent history as well, if you think about it in the span of things. And that's great that they don't shy away from that, that they acknowledge that and they, like you said, hit it right in the nose and accept that. It's really good.
Well, I think it's important to juxtapose where they've come from to what they are now, and it's a proper democratic country, and they really celebrate that. And going around their museums, it talked about how their first attempts at democracy didn't work, how they tried to adopt reason-based politics. Principally from England, which is a depressing revelation, considering where we are now. But
it's like when you go around the British history, the British Museum and stuff in London. And there's lots of exhibits about our awful times as colonial powers. Oh, I guess not actually. We just have lots of things we stole and then treat as if they were our own. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So we're really kind of still shitting in denial about how scummy we were. Mm-hmm. So they just sound much more developed, sort of, as a society. Give them a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, they're on it. They're where we need to be. And their trains work and everything works and everyone's nice and they speak English to you when they don't have to. They're great.
I really want to get back. The only time I've been to Germany was when we went to Leipzig in 2007 with the girl Bxb'S. Yeah. And I didn't really see much of Germany other than I noticed there's a lot of pork product to eat when I was there and really nice architecture. But most of the time I was spent playing video games. So I would love to go back like properly now that I'm a grown up and all that. That'd be lovely.
Yeah,
so after
phenomenal, really.
I just say I should introduce Joel, who's arrived considerably earlier than expected after me making kind of a big deal about the fact that we were going to do two sort of different bits of but Joel's here early. So hello, Joel.
Hey, Joel. It's my fault. I forgot the clocks go forwards tonight, which means the best strategy is to try and put your children to bed like an hour early.
Oh.
It didn't dawn on me until a bit early today.
That's pretty smart.
You just
brother.
take when you're a father, you just live each day as it comes, basically. So that's why it literally creeps up and came out of nowhere. So hence I'm a bit earlier than I actually thought I would be. So,
well, that's cool. We'd love to have you. We've got plenty of shit on the docket here, but you can sit in silence while me and Richard talk about how much we loved Annihilation and how terrible your taste in films is. Clearly, dude, I've seen another big film I'm going to talk about as well. But Annihilation, first of all, this is the film that Netflix stole international distribution rights for. I'm going to put it like that because the filmmaker himself, Alex Garland, would have liked it to be in cinemas. And after watching it, yeah, you can see why, can't you, Rich?
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit, that would have looked amazing on a big screen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, people talk about visual feasts and days like that, but this is one of those. It's got bright colors and everything, and it does look beautiful. Just the, I don't know, it just seems to do things with nature and that people should have done before, but somehow haven't. And it's just
super. Without spoiling anything, the concept of the movie is this: part of the US has been like separated, bordered off by some kind of entity. It's put up a wall. I think it took inspiration from Trump. And it's changing things, and people are going in and nobody's coming out. And it's about a woman and a whole female team, actually, which is amazing. I loved all that. Going in and trying to investigate what's happening there. And it's kind of some body horror, incredibly unsettling. It's got this great sense of creeping dread, which I really I felt just uncomfortable watching throughout. Amazing performances. By the way, yeah, in case you've forgotten, Natalie Portman, an incredibly good actress when she has a good role to do. Just and visually, like, yeah, what he does with the environments and the creatures and everything just being twisted and bent out of shape, and yeah, really amazing. It's the guy who directed Ex Machina. Cerebral sci-fi is what he does. And it's fabulous. And I'm going to go and read because it's the first book in a trilogy is what it's based on. And I need to read the next two because I don't think he's going to get the chance to make sequels, sadly. No, but
I read that the books end in a slightly different way to the film. This is made as a one-parter. It's not like it.
It has
there's two more bits. But,
saying that though, it's got a wonderfully old school sci-fi ending, hasn't it?
Yeah,
that leaves a big question mark at the end, even though there's a nice conclusion of sorts to it.
Well, that's what sci-fi's for, is to leave a question for you at the end.
Yep, leave you thinking, and it certainly left me thinking. I was sat there with the wife, we were just sort of dumbfounded, and then we started discussing it and really engaged with it. I flipping loved it, man. Like, I've got to ask you, Joel, then. I've got to ask you, I mean, what was your problem with it? Because when I posted it, I'd seen it and go watch this on our Facebook group where we chat and arrange the shows and stuff. You were like, oh no, I didn't like it. So I'm curious.
I just say I thought it was just average? I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was kind of okay. It just didn't really captivate me much. I agree that it was I liked some of the visually it was very nice to look at, some of the bright colors and things like that, but just it just didn't excite me that much, to be honest. I kind of watched it and I was like, okay, yeah, it didn't feel that refreshing or necessarily that new in ideas, I guess. I think I'd probably got preconceptions of having really enjoyed Ex Machina about what it would be. That Ex Machina was kind of a very focused subject topic, sort of contained in this small environment and things, and this was slightly a bit different to it. But yeah, that's just my feeling.
Fair enough. Before we get on to we've got like half a dozen or more video game news stories. I wanted to talk to Richard actually about the biggest piece of news in the last 2 weeks that eclipses anything geopolitical, anything video game. Daniel Bryan is back as an active wrestler in the WWE, Rich.
Yes.
Do it.
Yes.
Good man.
Excellent news.
Good man. Yeah, man, came out of nowhere, didn't it? And then he was on SmackDown giving a great speech, doing his brilliant kind of like, I'm an average guy kind of thing that he does so well, which I feel is totally genuine, by the way. I don't feel like it's a bit necessarily or a character. I can't wait to see what they book him in for WrestleMania. WrestleMania is looking like it's going to be an amazing card, Rich. I am actually really excited.
I'm kind of off wrestling for the time being. I haven't watched it religiously for a fair while. But yeah, that's
Well,
something to get you back into it, isn't it? Daniel Bryan being back, excellent.
You're going to watch Mania now, though, aren't you? I mean, like that's why it's so clever in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would have watched Mania anyway. I mean, I've still got my WWE subscription, and I watch the pay-per-views, but pretty much that's it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. It won't just be a case of me watching it because I've paid for it. That's a staple on the calendar.
I didn't watch Fastlane. I watched Elimination Chamber, which I thought was pretty good. I am watching a bit of Raw and SmackDown because we're in the run up, and I want to get current with some storylines and stuff before Mania is level 9, so it's very soon. But yeah, got a great card, some really good dream matches. I'm thinking Shinsuke Nakamura against AJ Styles. I'm thinking we're going to get Ronda Rousey's in-ring debut. That should be fun, even if it is a crappy mixed tag match against Triple H and Steph, which I really couldn't care less about. And she's fighting with Kurt Angle on her team, and it's just like 3 people that can't go and one who's green, who probably won't be very good. But I'm curious, Ronda Rousey, that's a big deal, yeah. So
and why are they putting her in a match like that? Is she just not ready for the ring?
Yeah, I'd say 100%. 100%. She's done a couple of wrestling moves when she's like interfered in a couple of matches, had a very short squash match as well. But you can tell she's not right quite there yet. She's an attraction. She isn't really a wrestler, so I don't think she's going to be that active. But yeah, I'm even looking forward to Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar Part 2. They've been putting him in a good storyline, anti Vince, cutting sort of shoot promos, to use the in wrestling lingo, where he's been like really unhappy with the management and stuff like that, and ended up getting in Vince's face in gorilla position and like really going behind the scenes with it and stuff. But if you're going to put someone, you want to put somebody over his face, put him in a program with Vince. Vince is the best heel in the business, and he's going to put Roman over just by being near him, isn't he? So
no, I don't think he is. I don't think anything can get Roman over enough.
He's more over at the moment than he was. But yeah, there was a bit where Brock jumped him after he got handcuffed because he was being arrested for trespassing because he'd been suspended. And when he got beaten up real bad, he's on the stretcher and Brock attacks him again. And he's like on the floor, like unconscious. The crowd starts chanting, "You deserve it." And it's like, oh yeah, that's you're not quite there, are you, Vince? Keep trying though. Maybe one day.
How many years is it going to take for them to just leave it at that? Doesn't work for him at all.
No, not at all. Yeah, so Joel, this is what happens when you join a bit earlier. I apologize. This is kind of what I had planned out to talk to Richard about some stuff, and then we were going to talk F1. So in that case, why don't we talk F1 now, Joel? Well, as we'll get all our catching up out of the way, and we won't do it at the end of the show like I advertised at the beginning. So, have you seen Quali?
I have. I saw the highlights today. I didn't get to watch it live, but I've watched the highlights since. And yeah, kind of. It's. I guess it's quite nice that I think it's. So Hamilton's on pole, obviously, and it seems quite close behind that. But the real. I think the real thing to take away from it is that in the race pace simulations and practice and stuff, I think they're all a lot closer actually than qualifying lets on. So I think the race will actually be pretty exciting. Exciting. I think they'll be close. I don't know if they'll be necessarily overtaking each other or it'll just be a procession, but with everyone really close together. But I think there's scope for some action to happen.
Well, first of all, just say I'm super excited. It's back. Can't wait to watch more racing. I've missed it hugely over the winter. Yeah, I've been following like the Halo. I really don't like how the Halo looks on those cars, by the way. I think just watching the drivers try and get in and out of the cars, I'm like, it just looks so awkward and like a badly designed stopgap measure. But that pole lap that Hamilton put in, I didn't watch it live, but I recorded the live broadcast of it because it was like 5 a.m. But that pole lap was incredible. He was nearly a second faster than everyone else on the track. It was just mad, like how he got where he found that speed. When he's on, he can't be touched. He's literally an insurmountable force in that car. So it's going to be a very interesting race. Weather's been a bit topsy-turvy. Maybe we'll get some rain in there as well, which is always exciting when you've got drivers like Verstappen in there. But yeah, I'm excited to see how Red Bull do. I'm excited to see how McLaren does now that they've got a Renault in there instead of the Honda. And then, you saw Toro Rosso's performance with the Honda engine and you're like, yep, that's what we expected. Oh dear. But yeah, I'm very excited for the race. I can't wait to see what's going on. They've got lots of young new drivers as well. This guy's like Leclerc, who's this up and comer who won. I think it was he debuted 2 years ago in GP3, won the championship, promoted straight to into the Formula 2 division, won the championship, and is now in F1. So that boy is hungry. He's 20. He's gonna be like a Verstappen, and he's gonna shake things up in that midfield, I suspect, to prove himself. So there's always those exciting elements to seeing these rookie drivers. There's 4 drivers who have never driven that circuit before competing tomorrow. So it's like, this is a very, very young driver field. So it's always going to be like, there's going to be some crashes. You know, we saw Bottas bin it hard in quali, and he's an experienced driver who just got cocky on that turn. I think he thought the car was better under him than it actually was. So yeah, it's going to be, he's coming up from the pit lane from the back, so he'll be doing overtaking as well. So there's going to be some stuff. Poor Ricciardo, he never has luck, does he, in Australia, his home race? He got a three place grid penalty for not slowing down quite enough under a red flag situation, even though he was nowhere near it in practice.
Well. Yeah. It wasn't in. Well, I suppose the rules are the rules, and apparently it should have been a 5-place penalty, but they adjusted it down because he did reduce his speed. He just didn't do it enough. But yeah, rules are rules. One thing that everyone really wants is the rules enforced consistently in F1.
Yes.
So not much you can say about it. It is sad because, but then hopefully, like I say, you don't know. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Good start. And then you know, could be right in the thick of it.
He will be, because he wants to do well, because it's home, you know, and he knows he has every person in that audience behind him pretty much. So he definitely should just push like crazy for it. And then there's always the bit that I find so entertaining about F1, right? So the season's just starting, right? 2018 season, but the actual drama right now is all about 2021. So you've got all the teams starting this jockeying around the proposed rule changes and the Concord agreement that's coming in 3 years' time. I just find it hilarious. Like, they're not even really thinking about the season they're on right now. So it's just like, wow, who cares? Let's just get through the next 3 years until the real shit can start happening with Liberty Media. Now, I know you were looking at other ways of watching F1, shall we say? How have your investigations into how you might be able to do that going? I was
going to see. So obviously the F1 streaming service is not going to be active by the time of the Australian Grand Prix. It's going. No. So they're launching their own streaming service. It's not quite made it. It's going into some limited beta. But yeah, and it's obviously there's a lot of talk about VPN blocking and stuff. So at the moment I've simply realised that the best thing that I can do is stick to watching the live races on Channel 4, and when I do actually have the chance to watch a race live, I can just pay I can pay like £8 for a sports day pass on Now TV, basically. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow, at least. And I'll see what happens once they launch their streaming service. Probably I'll wait to see if there's some feedback about if people manage to get it working and which VPN services it does work with and things, and see where we go from there. But
so just to like clarify for Richard, who's listening to all this, probably a little bit confused, the reason that there's not going to be available in this country is because of the Sky has all the distribution rights and all the streaming rights for F1 in the UK. They are so deep in now that the broadcast rights for F1 in the US is ESPN, but all their coverage is actually the Sky coverage. So it's like they are as tight with Liberty as anyone has ever been. So I suspect it will never be available in the UK. However, Sky did halve their like season price package, I know, for the F1 channel during the 9 months of the season. It's down to something like as cheap as like
150 quid.
150. I was going to say 30, but all right.
I think it's 150 for the whole season.
Okay.
Which, if you can watch every race, you know, I guess isn't too bad value. Thinking to next year where it won't be available on free-to-air TV in the UK, that might be a tempting solution, because it's, you know, having to pay for a VPN and pay for the F1 service. If the cost is the same next year, they may well come out near enough the same that it's not worth having to deal with a VPN and stuff. So
and even if VPNs do find a way around it, they'll be constantly battling that. So the amount of hassle for you have to kind of like, you have to put a dollar price on your time as well. Like, you know, if you're spending time trying to find workarounds and trying to make it, you know, do this and do that. Oh, I can only watch it on my laptop. I can't watch it on my TV. All of that shit. Is it worth it? You know, I'm a foolish you know, I have Sky and everything on that. So, you know, I watch it like that. But I can totally understand why that's not for everyone. You know, that is an expensive pain in the ass. But I do get to watch it in 4K. So, you know, there is that. Okay, guys, we've talked about everything except games. I just want to touch on one more thing. I saw Pacific Rim Uprising last night. How do you guys feel about Pacific Rim? Does it have a place in your hearts? For me, it's always been a fun, charming, silly kind of movie that I've enjoyed watching over the years. Do you guys hate it? A lot of people really hate it. So I was curious. Which ones are you?
Half and half. I like all the action bits. I hate all the talky bits because they are diabolical, aren't they? So if you could cut them out, it would be an amazing film.
Okay.
My beef with the sequel, and I've only seen the trailer, but I was pretty pumped for this until I saw the trailer, and it looks like Power Rangers without all the colors.
Well, okay. No, Joel, how do you feel?
Well, I actually, I don't mind the first film. The only thing I didn't really like about it is the fact that for some reason they have to have two pilots controlling half the machine. That was the only thing I couldn't really get on board with. Why couldn't they just have one person who has to be like the engineer and one person who's the captain? I don't know, but that's the only thing that I didn't like. You know, put that aside. I enjoy the film. But
they actually addressed that in the new one. I'm not going to spoil it. I mean, weirdly.
Do they add 4 people now?
No,
one controlling a leg or an arm.
No, we're not quite Power Rangers yet. But weirdly, this film has spoilers. This film is a much better movie than the first one. You're talking about the dialogue, Rich. Like that's gone. It's much better. The fact that the lead character is played by John Boyega, who just the charm of this man on the screen now. He's going to be the biggest fucking movie star as long as he keeps picking good projects. Like he just oozes watchability. He has got an effortless charisma that just draws you into the movie. He's an everyman. At the same time, you buy him as a leader. You get this reluctant hero thing from him in this. He absolutely fucking nails it. And then, yeah, like I was saying, the writing and the characterization in this film is so much better than the first one. And then we have a very inventive plot that had twists that I didn't see coming, that really surprised me with the directions they took it in. And I was completely blown away by what I thought was going to be a complete sort of like just an easy sequel, just more fights, just the same story again. They've taken it in directions that really surprised me. And I'm excited for the potential of another film, like making it into a trilogy. It's really fucking good. I mean, I was really impressed.
Why is the trailer at such pains to make it look like that easy sequel then? Because that's
I don't know
what it looks like.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I think they're trying to appeal to kids, and I think they're trying to appeal to diehard fans of the original. But also, you got to remember when the people that cut the trailers aren't often the filmmakers, and I think they have a different idea of what they're cutting, and they're also cutting stuff together with unfinished film. So they'll be, you know, using the special effects that are completed that are available to them and things like that. But yeah, I do think the trailer misrepresents it. And I mean, look, it's not. I don't want you to think it's like an amazing piece of like 5-star cinema. It's not. But at the same time, it's a lot better than it could have been, and it was surprised me with the quality of the writing and the performances. I even like the young kind of kid characters. They didn't feel like the awful ones they put in, say, Transformers movies. They felt like they had a reason, a motivation, like real heft to them. And you want to see what happens and you want them to succeed. And also, yeah, the fights are fucking awesome, man. They do some really creative stuff with changing it up, with not just doing the same things we've already seen. So, no, I was, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Proper impressed. Recommendation for me. And it's one of those films that does look good on the big screen. You know, the scale of it works very well in the cinema. But yeah, so I'd say if you can get a chance, check it out.
Oh, go watch it then.
Cool. I'd be interested to see what you think. You're sometimes a little bit more you sometimes require a little bit more quality, I should say, from your blockbusters than I do, Richard. I'm sometimes quite forgiving of the schlock, shall we say. So I think that's fair. I like bad movies. I do like bad movies. Quite a lot of bad movies. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up in our little catch up? Anything you guys have enjoyed on Netflix in the last couple of weeks while we do our Netflix corner, as it were?
I can tell you something I didn't enjoy on Netflix.
I
wasted an evening last night watching a film called Jupiter Ascending, and that's time I'm never going to get back. I already knew it was. I knew that it was kind of not particularly well received, but I didn't expect it was as bad as when I watched it. I mean, very nice CGI, but yeah, God, so cheap.
Well done for getting through it though, Joel, because I lasted 20 minutes.
so case in point of me liking bad movies. I don't hate that movie. I think it as basically 2 hours of a video game cutscene, which is kind of what it felt like to me. Like it was like, you know, Final Fantasy VII era storytelling, basically. If you watch it like that, I actually found it okay, and I liked special effects, and I liked some of the sci-fi high concept stuff. But yeah, dialogue and acting and performances are bad.
Yeah. Let's move on. We've already given it too much talk time.
More than it deserves. You watch anything shit that you on Netflix, Richard? I mean, I'm not going to bother with Jessica Jones season 2 because I've decided that I am done with Marvel Netflix stuff. For example, I have no interest in her origin story at all, so I won't be watching that.
Well, that's interesting because I've decided I'm going to watch all of them. I've just finished Jessica Jones season 1. I've started Luke Cage. I'm working my way through the lot. And Jessica Jones was great. Luke Cage is really good so far.
It is. Yeah, but I just don't care about
Iron Fist.
The Iron Fist is a complete pile of dog shit, and the Defenders is even worse. Yeah. But I mean, I just don't care about Jessica Jones's origin. She's such a minor character. I don't really care where she comes from. Like, it seems unnecessary. I hate the fucking belabored origin stories we get with superheroes. It's just like, get us into the good stuff, you know? Like the way they did it with Spider-Man in Homecoming. That was brilliant. A funny, jokey conversation with his best mate. You know, that was just caught you up if you'd not actually knew what Spider-Man was by some fucking miracle of mistake or something, you know. That's how you should do it, and then just leave it at that, you know?
I didn't realize it was an origin story, the Jessica Jones series, the new one.
Season 2 is predominantly focused around that, from what I've read, yes.
So that's disappointing, really, because the strong thing about the first series was how they just kind of gave her a superpower and then threw it away. It's barely there for most of the season. And,
that's her character in the comics as well. Yeah, she's cool. Yeah, no, as a character, she actually what it is, I think, is as a performance, as an actor, she's one of the, if not the best piece of casting in all the Marvel Netflix stuff. You know, one of the best. She's absolutely fantastic performance, isn't it? So, I guess we should talk about some games.
Oh, do you want to talk games? That's what we're here for.
Well, it's kind of you know, it's whatever we want, isn't it? It's whatever we want. So I've got some news articles. Did you guys have a chance to peruse the stuff I put on the show notes? I'll lead us through it, but I was just wondering if you had a little. Did you have a chance to do a bit of research, a bit of homework?
Sort of. I read the links.
You read the URLs.
Yeah.
It's a start. It's a start. Most of them have felt fairly self-explanatory, though.
Yeah.
The first one,
I thought, and that's how news works in 2018. You just read the first line.
You read the headline. That's all you need. You know, unless it's fake news, and then well, it probably all is, isn't it? You know. By the way, doing this news research, I went to Eurogamer, like I often do, for our source of news to see what's thing. Their new site redesign is really shit.
I wasn't the only one who thought that. Then that loaded up the other day, and I thought, you know, their old site certainly could have done with improving, but what you've done is awful and worse.
There's this really long ass. It's kind of like our site in a way, but with 40 times as much content. So it's this really long ass blog roll that is not a fun thing to navigate when you're going through 20 stories a day. So yeah, and then the whole thing is taken over with ads. But anyway, we don't do ads at Bxb'S, do we? We know we don't believe in that in 2018.
Did you see EA congratulating them on their new look?
No,
that makes a certain kind of sense. Yeah, okay, all right.
They showed a screenshot of the new Eurogamer on the EA Twitter feed.
What?
They were using an ad blocker, so Eurogamer. Thanks. But
is that real?
Brilliant.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I love it. That's so clever. Oh, well, stupid, but yeah. So, first bit of news, I'm quite happy to hear. So, Geralt of The Witcher is going to be a playable character in Soul Calibur 6. As guest characters go, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm quite excited to play that. I like Soul Calibur. How do you guys feel about that series?
Soul Calibur just has great guest characters always, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know about great. I mean, I'm thinking of Spawn, Darth Vader, Link, Yoda. I mean, most of them are pretty shit. The Spartan, which wasn't even Master Chief. I feel like Geralt makes the most sense they've ever out of any of the characters they've ever done, really, don't you?
It's quite thematic, doesn't he? He kind of fits in with the core character set, and
he fits. But I don't know. I feel like Soul Calibur was the first to really just throw out the rules and just have anybody that would attract attention, and that works, doesn't it?
It might be the first.
Well, what came first, Soul Calibur or Tekken? Tekken was certainly much more out there. I mean, God, they had the freaking tiger-headed guy and the long man, didn't they?
But they're not
Tekken was just wacky.
So guest characters, Soul Calibur did it first, I think.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, I'm thinking about like, now it's quite common, isn't it? Especially in the NetherRealm games. In their DLC characters, they'll often go to weird places. Like in the last Mortal Kombat, you had the alien in there, didn't you? And Predator. And then in Injustice 2, we got things like Hellboy and the Turtles and stuff like that. By the way, the Turtles are amazing in Injustice 2. I highly recommend playing as those. But Soul Calibur, I think this is like, you can even explain it in universe because of Ciri and her portals. Like she's created a portal and he's gone through it and ended up in the Soul Calibur universe. Like, so there's even a lore reason that he might be there, which I think is fun. But two swords, and I watched the trailer for it, and he uses lots of his spells, and recognizable use of Igni and Ard and all kinds of things like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm down. I'm gonna be playing as him. That's gonna be fun. Not much more to say into that. So we're gonna go to slide down bit now, guys. I want to hear some stories from you because I bet you've got stories. I know I've got some stories. So Toys R Us is now officially done.
Yeah, I walked past my local Toys R Us today just to see if by any chance it was still open, selling cheap amiibos or some shit. But no, it's all gone. It's depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, man. So I'll tell you my anecdote, and I'll see if you guys have got one as well. So my main memory of Toys R Us, other than walking around it and always wanting everything and never being able to buy anything because you're a kid and that's how that is. I remember I get into a Toys R Us at like 5 in the morning, 5 a.m. or something like that. Dawn was breaking with my mum, and we were there to queue up to get for my little brother for Christmas Tracy Island from Thunderbirds. And I remember us having bacon sandwiches and being given like a ticket. So we didn't have to literally stand in the cold, and we went back to the car, and we went back at 9 o'clock with our ticket, and we got one of the Tracy Islands for my little brother. Yeah, so that's my memory, my main enduring memory of Toys R Us. Have you guys got anything similar?
I've got loads of childhood ones. Can you remember when Toys R Us, like when we were kids, and I remember talking to my brother a lot about this when we were young, like they used to do the trolley dash thing where you could win a trolley dash. You get 1 minute to run around Toys R Us with a trolley. Okay. Fill it up with anything. We always used to sit there, sort of try to strategically plan if we ever won our trolley dash, how we would do it around the store. And it was literally like in the video game section, getting all those yellow bits of paper for the games, because it didn't actually have games on the shelf. They're all locked away behind those glass windows, weren't they? So you had to get those bits of paper, and then go. Your mum had to pay for it. Then you had to go to the collection thing, and like how you'd literally like tearing all this paper up, trying to throw it in your trolley, walking with your arm down the aisle, sweep as much as you get in. Yeah, those are the kind of things. I remember once turning up to Toys R Us, not at 5 a.m. in the morning, but maybe about 9-ish or something, and they were closed for a stock take, which was crushing.
Well, I don't know about you, but the way it was for me in Toys R Us was you never lived near to one. So going for one was always like an adventure, like a special journey. To go to Toys R Us. I just never lived in that close to one. So it was always like an hour in the car, and you get to the, you're going to this like toy mecca. You're going to the place of, you worship toys. As a kid, it was like, there was nothing more exciting than going to a Toys R Us when, a certain age there. I remember Turtles figures and Ghostbusters stuff and all kinds of things like that when I was growing up. And what about you, Richard? Have you got a little... Robots
in the 80s? Yeah. My first visit to Toys R Us that I remember was looking through toughened glass at robots you couldn't ever hope to own, or I couldn't at least. And I'm sure they didn't actually do anything. Do you remember these? Are you too young?
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
There was one specific one that I remember. It kind of looks like Rob the Robot off the NES. But
there was like generic, off-brand, one-of-a-kind things. Like
no. These were like mass-produced utilitarian robots for like serving you at home. Did you
go through a portal into like a Fallout reality?
This is real, man. It's real. Check them out.
Okay. All right.
I don't know what it was called, but it looked like Rob the Robot. It was about half human height, right? And you could program it to go around your living room and go to the kitchen. It came with a tray, so it could carry drinks for you.
So this is like the robot from Rocky IV.
Rocky 4.
I'm trying to remember now. That's a really. Is it more like the R2D2 from Jabba's sail barge in Return of the Jedi, except really shit?
I can't believe you don't remember the robot from Rocky 4.
Did you have to? So you send it to the fridge to get you a drink, but you have to go with it because it can't actually put the drink on the tray. So you have to put the drink on the tray and then walk back with it.
This was the 80s, so the wife was always in the kitchen.
Where she belongs. Good. Yeah, makes sense.
On the final thing
on Toys R Us wanting one of those.
On a final point for Toys R Us, did you see that? I think it's what their CEO or recent ex-CEO blamed it on millennials not having children was his reasoning as to why they folded. Basically, there's probably a reality to that. I mean, but there's also, of course,
I'm calling bullshit on that because
absolutely bullshit.
Carry on playing with toys well into their 30s, don't they?
Yeah, but I think I think if you think about who's buying, as someone who kind of runs a toy shop in many ways, thinking about who I sell toys to, it's more like when you're talking about collectibles to adults than it is toys to kids. I think a lot of kids now are given a touchscreen device by their parents at a young age, and that's predominantly where their entertainment comes from. I think it's a shame, and I think not having that tactile interaction. I think it's because a lot of parents sadly don't have time to sit and play with kids as much as they used to, and that's speaks to the modern societal pressures, and I think that's really tragic as well. But I imagine there is degree of truth to that. I can sort of see where he's coming from. I imagine there's a lot more to it than that, but I think there's an interesting knock-on effect. By the way, have you seen this thing with the story? I didn't link it, but Granger Games, predominantly a video game chain in the north, but basically have had their lines of credit slashed to nothing from their suppliers because there's a complete lack of faith in the retail space right now, and that's very worrying for a lot of those sort of mid to sort of large size companies that rely on credit for their purchasing and for their stock. So Granger's in some real financial shit for that, and they could be the next one to fall because of it.
Shall we put it out there? Will Game go into administration will it be the third time in many years?
I actually went in and was speaking at length to one of my friends who's a manager of Game just a couple of days ago, and he thinks they'll be gone by the end of the year.
Right.
They've got money in the bank, but he's talking about upcoming releases and pre-order numbers and pre-owned sales and all of this, and everything is just very poor right now. Very, very poor. He had a very, very sort of resigned, negative attitude to their future of that company. Yeah.
We're only in March. That's a long way to go till Christmas if he's despondent already.
Yeah. And I think what you might see is the talk of the concessions going to Sports Direct. They might well be the only form of game left by the end of the year. If they cut all their existing retail locations and just put these concessions into Sports Direct, that's obviously going to massively lower the overhead. They're trying to pivot into these arena concepts and things like that, which is basically this sort of. Do you guys know what the game arena stuff is? It's really weird.
Aren't they setting up like local sports teams? So each sort of
no. They might be, but arena is more like a 21st century arcade where you buy time in advance. You come in with your mates and you get to play on the latest games and stuff on VR and whatever on the various kiosks and things they've got set up in this sort of. If not a completely bespoke environment, like a partitioned part of the existing shop.
Yeah.
So they're trying to sort of, they're trying to do something to set themselves apart and trying to do something to offer a service. But I don't know. I don't know if that makes much sense.
Well, they've got to do something different. They're not going to survive as a pure game retailer anymore. They've really got to come up with something new. So, I don't know. I can't say if that'll work or not. Sounds an interesting. I think there are things they could pivot into that could be successful potentially. They've just got to take the risk, haven't they?
Many moons ago, I worked a game, and I didn't enjoy it particularly. I worked there a few different times, but I don't want them to go. I like us having a dedicated physical retailer for video games in the UK, and the same thing with GameStop and EB in the US and Canada and stuff like that. And it would be a shame if any of those went under. It really would. It's a lot of jobs. it increases visibility of the thing, you know, the entertainment medium we absolutely love, which only means that it's better for the industry. You know, and where do you go to buy your consoles? You going to your supermarkets, I guess? You going Argos, like, you know, weird mixed retailers, I suppose, to do that. I'd much rather go to a brick and mortar place to put, you know, to make that connection with people, to talk to the passionate people about games and stuff. And it'd be a real shame
that they are passionate though.
Yeah, I think so. Most of them, mate. Yeah, definitely. There are a few people that are a bit like drones, you know, and it's just a job. And then it's easy to become like that as a manager in those situations because there's so much pressure put on you. You just have to look at numbers, and it's easy to lose the love. But you don't generally work in places like that if you're not really into it.
I've worked in game as well briefly, and you know, from that side of the counter and as a customer, I've never felt that they really know what they're talking about.
Oh,
and certainly,
and some don't, sure, because there's a lot of people that work at
games to know anything. I mean, in terms of what they get in a stock, they just receive a big crate, they open it up and see what's in it, and tick off what's in there off a list. And then they never know what's going to be in there. Not really given any training on what to promote or anything. Yeah, I've never really felt like it's somewhere to go where my hobby is celebrated. It's just somewhere that they sell stuff. I've always felt.
I think you said this before, Richard. You go in there these days, and it's literally just sweets and phones and stuff now, isn't it? It's
Well, it's a desperate.
It's lost its identity as a game shop.
Yeah, it's a desperate attempt to diversify, to stay alive. They've got to try things. They have to try things. There's, you know, there's so little margin in those new game sales and console sales that there's so little money to be made. They have to have other revenue streams. You know, yeah, look, the market is a very different place than it was 20 years ago, or even 15 or 10 years ago. Everything's online. I don't buy physical games. I just go in there to see friends and have a chat about the latest shit and, you know, see how things are doing, because I find it interesting. But I certainly don't really buy games from them. But yeah,
I don't buy anything there apart from consoles.
Yeah, that's it for me. Hardware, yeah.
Consoles, I still go to Game, but
I bought my One X from Game, you know, and I got my I regretted buying my Switch Online, which is the main reason why I've gone back to them. Anyway, it's interesting times. I think it'll be developing over the year, definitely. The way things are going, there's going to be a lot more changes. Back digital distribution space of video games, and Twitch has announced a more sort of regimented process now. If you have a Prime subscription, you're going to get a bevy of free games every month. Now, Twitch had already been kind of giving away games on a kind of ad hoc weekly basis. Every time I'd logged in, there would always be another one saying, "Oh, claim your free bit of loot, claim your free game here." Because I'm an Amazon Prime subscriber, I have Twitch Prime as by default. You know, I'd amassed. I didn't realize how many games I had until I went on to get this first lot of free games for the month of March, and I'd already had a bunch, maybe half a dozen free games, and then there's another one, half a dozen just been added, and they're pretty good games, biggish games, good indie games, that sort of stuff, like some good titles added on there. So they're basically getting it. They're doing for PC what Xbox and PlayStation have been doing for a while for their subscribers, and it's just another nice additive service from Amazon, I suppose. Are you guys Twitch Prime subs or not?
No, I never use Twitch.
But do you have an Amazon Prime sub?
No.
Okay, fair dues.
Yeah, well, I am. I've got Amazon Prime, and hence, yes, I do have Twitch Prime. So yeah, I like it. Obviously, you know, having a subscription and getting more shit for your money, you can't really complain about that. But it's just, you know, it's. I don't know, Amazon taking over worries me.
Oh, but look, we're talking about the inevitable demise of brick and mortar retailers. This is what's replacing them. This is what we're getting.
What I worry is that what's replacing them. I'm not worried about what's replacing, the technologies or the way things are changing. It's that we'll end up with one sort of giant monopoly. Now, I think there's also the Humble Bundle do a monthly subscription there as well. So it's not quite like that, but I don't want to end up with a sort of monolithic powerhouse virtually controlling like 80% of the market, because that will stifle competition a little bit.
Well, but I mean, the way you stop that is competition, right? So
I draw your attention to Steam on the PC
there is other competition. You've got the Windows game stores, you've got, like you said, the Humble store, you've got GOG, you've got Green Man Gaming. There's absolutely fucking millions of other storefronts for PC games out there, and the choice is yours as a customer. And if you choose not to use them because Steam is more convenient and easy, then that's on you. I mean, you know, I feel like you can't really blame Amazon for being successful. I'm not going to get into business practice. I'm not going to get into dodging fucking taxes and all this stuff, because like any fucking giant corporation, they are scumbags, because giant corporations generally are. That's how they become giant corporations. So, you know, but as an additive, a bevy of free games every month around the 15th is a nice thing to offer. I mean, the games they offered this month: Super Hot, Oxenfree, Mr. Shifty, which we all fucking loved, if you remember, brilliant game. Shadow Tactics, which I nearly bought on Xbox, but now I've got for free on PC, so I don't need to do that. And then I don't know what the Tomb of Annihilation is, Dungeons and Dragons game of some kind. And Oxenfree, actually, I will pivot that into another news story, because the Oxenfree developers have just announced their newest game. Did you guys watch the 1 minute long video showing their new game? You didn't, did you? Neither.
I did.
You did.
What?
It's called. You haven't played Oxenfree?
No, barely. I've got it.
Is it a Game Pass game?
It is a Game Pass game. It's been on Games with Gold.
Richard,
it's literally given away free on most things, or has been. I think it's probably been PS Plus as well.
I think so. I mean, you'd probably quite enjoy it, Richard. It's got a really innovative dialogue system. I wasn't like a huge fan in the end of the overriding kind of story of the game. I thought it was perhaps that was a little weak, but the way they do the dialogue, where you can interrupt people, and it just feels incredibly naturalistic, and really helps sort of get across these grounded teen characters. This is stuff they seem to be bringing into their new game, Afterparty, which is about a couple who have just died and have gone to hell, and they have to beat Satan in a drinking competition to get brought back to life. It looks mental, silly, weird. It kind of made me think a bit of like bit Pratchett-esque in its tone and things like that. Very brief trailer, seems to be using the same dialogue system, but it's always good to see you know, something else coming from these indie developers that are always innovating and stuff. And maybe this time the conceit will draw me in a little bit more. I just want to get the developer's name before I forget. I'm looking it up now. Night School Studio. There you go. I wanted to just...
I'm watching the trailer now. It looks a bit more stylish than Oxenfree did.
A bit more character to it, don't you think? Yeah, a little bit, because it's weird that they can cut loose a little bit, I think, with the looks of it and stuff. Yeah, it's not coming until 2019 though, sadly.
More of a Lucasfilm look, actually. Looks quite good.
It does. It does look good. So we're just going to keep going. Did you guys check out this amazing talking about future software, future games? Did you guys see these amazing tech demos Unreal put out with Andy Serkis?
No, I didn't.
So they've just unveiled at GDC this incredible real-time face mapping technology that is just stunning. Yeah, have a little look at how it looks and stuff quickly. You can follow the links and watch the videos. This is all going to be in the show notes as well, guys, if you're listening along and want to watch this. But this is the sort of the future of games. Like when you think about the face tech we get from Naughty Dog and stuff like that, you know, for their performance capture, and then this seems to be sort of the natural evolution of of creating these sort of credible, impressive performances in video games as this medium matures, and they just look mind-blowing. I mean, Andy Serkis is the best mocap actor on the fucking planet, so I'm sure that doesn't hurt having him doing this stuff and doing an amazing reading of I believe a soliloquy from Macbeth in these videos. But yeah, the tech is just super cool. Can't wait to see where that technology might show up. However, it's always a bit dubious because we'll be talking about Sea of Thieves later, but there's been a lot of comparison videos popping up recently about, hey, this is what they showed in 2015 or 16 at E3, and look at what the game actually looks like. And you've got the whole sort of downgraded visuals, and it's not as pretty as was promised, which is one of the things we get a lot with video games, isn't it? I think of The Division, and I think of just about everything that gets shown at E3, to be honest. Like Watch Dogs is a great example. Ubisoft were really bad at it for a while. Yes. Yeah, they seem to have chilled out about that a bit. So yeah, so that's the Are you watching it now, guys? It looks good, doesn't it? You both look completely.
It does look pretty good. Yeah, I'm watching it now. And
the alien, especially the alien face, is incredible. What they do with that. So, just so it's the eyes. The eyes look so real. That's what's so impressive. That
you can still tell it's not real, but it's not far off.
It's kind of like how real do you want it to be?
On? You know, what's it running on?
I believe it's Unreal.
An
Unreal
PC dev, I think. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much of that actually gets translated into real world use. Like that's the key thing with tech demos is. But yeah, it's obviously this stuff's coming.
So I mentioned Ubisoft, and in there sometimes egregious, shall we say, overreaching with their tech demos and what they're promising at E3s. But after 2 incredibly downbeat E3s in which they basically sounded like they were going to get taken over at any moment, and Eve sort of thanking everybody and almost saying goodbye. Do you remember those conferences and how weird the tones were on those? Like, and how sort of semi-upsetting it was to see Eve looking a little bit broken at the threat of this Vivendi takeover. Well, the good news is the Vivendi takeover is over. That's not happening. They are selling their shares, and Ubisoft has found a way out of that predicament. So they're going to stay independent and stay as this kind of European developer that is at the moment producing games brilliantly, which is they're really evolving, and they're supporting them for a very long time post-release. So I'm really happy to hear that Ubisoft is going to keep its identity and stay as this independent but also huge publisher and developer. So Vivendi's selling this stuff. Some people were freaking out because a small percentage of their stocks was sold to Tencent. And Tencent's done some. Tencent is this giant Chinese mega media corporation that's now got its fingers in so many pies and so many companies and so many video game developers and producers all around the planet. But if you want inroads into China, which is what it sounds like Ubisoft is trying to do, then that's a good partner, isn't it? Really. So you can't really fault them for that. I mean, do you guys anything you wanted to add, or should I just
roll on?
roll on. But it's good news, though, yeah?
That is good news.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Tencent, but yeah, we'll take the good news while it's here.
That's the problem, man. It's these I think me and Joel talked about it last time. These giant umbrella corporations that you don't even know. We were talking about it in the publishing sense like 2 weeks ago, if you remember, Joel, weren't we? And it's like Tencent's like that. Like, you don't know who they are, but they sort of own and control a lot of stuff. Do some research, Richard. It will scare you. And the final piece of news is that we've got the big patch for Star Wars Battlefront 2. So, did you guys check out the sort of details of what the changes were, or have you? I
saw some of the reaction to it, which was seemingly relatively positive. A lot of people on Reddit were cheering, "We won, we won!" But I don't actually know what the details of what actually has changed with the system. I think no longer can you get. You can only get cosmetic items from the crates or something now, and you can only get crates from rewards or by your daily reward crate or something.
Login, login stuff. Basically they've completely changed the progression system. It's no longer this loot-based opening crates progression. There's now like leveling up, and when you level up, you can unlock new cards, you can unlock new characters. Actually, I don't think it is characters, because I believe all of the characters and all of the ships are now available from the beginning. But it's just more of a traditional RPG leveling system. So yeah, I think it is fair to say that they won in a way, because that backlash made them completely redesign the entire progression system of the game, and in a positive way, making it much more traditional and much more easy to understand, unlike that batshit mad loot system they had before. And on top of that, we've got they've gone back to Bxb'S. They've kind of like reused some of the Battlefront 1 assets that they had for the Bxb'S area and brought that into Battlefront 2, so that, more free content as well. They're doing their best to make good here. So I think the thing to remember here is that, yes, they made a mistake. They overreached with that microtransaction stuff, without a doubt, but they seem to be learning. And so hopefully going forwards, we are going to see a much better sort of implementation of microtransactions, if not a lot less microtransactions in general, because the game spoke, and EA, they fucking listened, so props to them in that front. I might actually play this game again and check it out soon, actually, because it was great to play.
Yeah,
so much fun to play. So...
I still play it on and off. Probably once a week I'll dip in. It's good. It's still a good game.
So yeah, but you haven't checked it out post patch.
No, I've not been into it yet. I think I booted it up just before the patch hit. So yeah, I've made a fair bit of progress on it before the patch. So I assume that everything we did beforehand you've still got, and they've mapped across to the new system. All your progress. I don't know.
Okay.
So does it? But I assume
it does. It does. It says you have not lost all your progress. Yes, that is correct. Everything you've unlocked, everything you've done, all the cards you've got, everything like that is carried over.
Okay, cool. Good.
So you don't lose none, including your handy deluxe edition pack, which basically made you super powerful if you first got the game. If you remember that rightly. Yeah. So you'll still have all that shit. Right. I've done a lot of talking now as I went through all the news there. For the last couple of weeks. So I think I want to hear, because I played a bit of it as well, Richard, but I want to hear what your thoughts so far are on the somewhat controversial, because it's being picked up by mainstream press. If you remember when I sent you this code, I sent you the bullet points of its marketing spiel, which was Metropolis Lux Obscura, the self-proclaimed sexist game.
Sexist game. It is that. It feels really, really dated. I'll tell you what it is first. I'm playing it on Switch, but I believe it's on the other consoles as well. So you can get it on Xbox One, PS4.
Well, you will be able to in April the 4th.
Yeah, it's not out on anything yet, so I've played it. I'm playing it early, but it's not under embargo, so I can say what I like, can't I?
You can.
Excellent. It's a match 3 puzzle game, but it's got cartoon tits in between different matches.
I'm laughing because I've been playing on Xbox as well, Richard, and you're not wrong, brother.
That's pretty much what it is, right?
Yeah.
I can't say I'm that impressed with it. I mean, the art is really well drawn, and
it is.
It's like a graphic novel style, animated graphic novel that plays out between matches, and it's about one of these gritty looking street guys from the 80s who's, like a Max Payne sort of character. He's down on his luck and nothing goes his way, and he lives in an awful suburban sprawl with lots of horrible characters, knocks them all out and then has sex with some of them, and then you do match 3.
I don't think he knocks out the same ones he has sex with. To be
no, he's not that aggressive.
He's not that. Yeah, well, okay. I mean, the bit his name is something Lockhart, isn't it? Something to that effect. Yeah. The bit that stood out to me is when I went to the strip club, and the stripper's hitting on me, and she keeps calling me cock hard because it's a play on my name Lockhart. Yeah. And I just thought that was like, at the same time, the worst and best writing I'd come across. It's actually written. I was reading about this. It's written. The whole thing has been written by a woman. And it wears its Sin City inspirations like a neon sign flashing above its head, doesn't it? It's like, we wish this is Sin City with match 3.
Yeah.
I don't know if I dislike it because the match 3 side of it is fine. And the story,
I'm not sure it is fine.
I had a weird glitch with it when I was playing it where I tried to move one of the icons to make a match, and it didn't match, and I was like, oh, fair enough. And when it went to reset it, instead of putting it back where it came from, it kind of disappeared, and it actually sort of cloned itself under the nearby icon. So I couldn't use that icon, and it basically made that whole part of the board unusable.
Oh, I've not had anything like that. I mean,
I had a weird.
It has worked for me.
Yeah. This is pre-release though, so it's like, there'll probably be patches and stuff. But yeah, you don't like them actually. I don't like how, because it's a click drag match 3 mechanic. And I'm not a fan of those kind of match 3s that much, I suppose.
No, it barely feels like it's got any design behind it at all. I mean, it's the loosest interpretation of match 3. It's a grid of icons, and if there's 3 of them on a line and 2 of them are together, you drag the one on its own to touch the other 2, and then that is your 3. The icons are representative of different things that you would use in a fight, I guess. So there's guns, there's boots, which resembles you kicking your opponent. There's fists, med packs if you want to get health back. There's a bunch of different stuff like that.
Poison gas, car
Poison
batteries.
gas,
It took me a minute to work out what the fuck they were meant to do. None of those got explained, and I was just like, what is this gas shit? What street fight has poison gas in it? I was very confused when they showed up.
It is odd, isn't it? So yeah, the gameplay itself, I guess it's fine. You know, that's basically it. When you finish a fight, it does give you the option of choosing a power up. So you get one of 4 power ups at the end of a fight, and you can choose which one you want. And they're supposed to be based on bad habits or mental illnesses, I believe.
Yep.
Which gives you an advantage in fighting. So I think the one that springs to mind is cursing or something. If you start swearing at your opponent, somehow they will miss their turn, and then you can have 2 goes at battering them. Stuff like that. There's other ones that make you heal better with med kits, because I think you're like a drug addict, so you respond better to medication or something like that. You get the idea.
It's weird because it's like you're describing stuff that you sort of think, oh, that's kind of offensive, but it's so fucking silly at the same time that it knows it's clearly trying to push buttons, right, intentionally. Yeah. And so you're playing it and it's so on the nose, and I don't really find it offensive when you describe it like the way you just did. However, it's a bit like 2018. We don't really need that.
I'm being fair though, right? I'm not.
You are. No, you're not. No. And look, I think that's clearly the goal here of the developer. It's getting people to talk about it like we are right now.
Have you finished it yet?
No.
I've got to the end. It's not that long.
Oh, okay. Does it? Oh, just out of interest, I was wondering. On Switch, does it have touchscreen?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I feel like that match 3 stuff would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best way to play, because you can play it other ways as well. But yeah, touchscreen's by far the most natural.
Playing it on Xbox, I was thinking this is a game designed for the Switch / iPad, or iPhone. That the whole way that grid system works it would make so much more sense, dragging it with your finger than it does with a fucking cursor, as it does on Xbox, which is not the best. And then the whole kind of the way the story's told, the way the cutscenes work, I can see that in my hands on the Switch or on an iPad. That makes a lot more sense.
It just looks nice on the Switch,
Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great on my Xbox.
I don't imagine it would. But the colors really pop on the Switch. It looks nice. Okay. It's just you kind of have to sit through the cutscenes. If you mess up a match, you have another go, and you got to sit through the cutscene again. I haven't found a way to skip it really. I don't know if you can, or if it's just me. Can you skip on the Xbox or not?
I haven't tried to. I only played until I died the first time, and I was like, yeah, it's enough.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, I did finish it. I think it took me there's about 10 matches in it.
Is that it?
Yeah. And there's
short
routes through the game. So I got ending 2 of 4. I think the other endings by going to locations in a different order, I suppose.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's like a weird location thing in there which seemed a bit arbitrary, and I guess what it is to extend the length of the game artificially, because there's not a lot of game.
No, but it's not the best solution. I mean, I was thinking of Ironcast while I was playing this, and that's another match 3.
Oh, it's so good. I love that game.
Ironcast has a similar system where you match 3 things on a grid, and you have a level up system or like a perk system, but you're not going to get to the end of the game in your first go. But what does happen is you carry over your power-ups to your next go, and bit by bit you'll get further and further, and it's a really satisfying grind, isn't it, Ironcast?
Yeah, because the roguelike element is just brilliant.
Yeah, this doesn't have that, so you'll get a fair way into this game and you'll feel like, I don't know if I can beat this enemy now, because perhaps I've chosen the wrong power-ups, or it's just balanced in such a way that it's not reliably beatable. It's just down to chance, really, whether or not it misses out your opponent's turns, or whether you get enough health packs naturally drop for you.
Yeah,
it just feels more random. It's not like you can build towards success. It either happens or it doesn't. And once you've finished it, you don't get to carry anything over. You just start again if you want another ending.
And at that point, I will say that's the most anybody will ever talk about Metropolis Lux Obscura. So I think in that regard, we've done our jobs. Yeah. From a mediocre Switch game, I'm going to talk about a fucking excellent one. Like, there's a reason this game is winning awards and nominated for awards all over the place, and that is Last Day of June. Have either of you guys heard about Last Day of June? I feel like it's on the cusp of really exploding because it's going to start getting talked about by a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned it to me the other day.
This is a sort of a bit of an adventure game, I guess, but it predominantly narrative driven, quite simple puzzles, but it's more about the experience. It's more about the emotion that's conveyed in this game. And the concept is you play as this man who is very much in love with his, I believe it'd be his wife, but I don't think it's ever codified in that stricter term, but you find out more about their relationship as you play the game. But after a romantic, very sweet day down by the lake, they're driving home, they have a car crash, and she is killed, and you are paralyzed. And it's then about, through her artwork that she has done prior to her death, you can sort of travel back to the day of the accident, inhabiting the different people in this sort of nearby little village and affecting their lives to prevent her death. Which is the puzzle element. And then it's kind of this knock-on effect of, like, you will affect one of the lives and they will change what they do. But then that knock-on effect affects a different character, which means their actions then cause her death. And it's about finding the right combination of changes between the 4 or 5 characters that means that she doesn't die. And, oh God, so sad. But so good. It's beautiful to look at. It's got this watercolor aesthetic, lovely character. Some people don't like the characters because they've got these big eye sockets but no eyes.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. It's creepy.
It's a bit creepy. Look, it is a little bit creepy looking in stills, I think. And when I first looked up the game before playing it, I was a little bit off it by it. But when you're playing it, it's not a problem. You still get loads of character from it, and they don't speak. None of the characters speak. They have kind of like a bit of a Simlish kind of like thing to them, but they don't like actually say dialogue. But it's enough. Trust me, you get exactly what they're saying. In a way, it's really clever because it's conveying tone rather than specific dialogue, which means you don't need to translate this into a million different languages because the conversations they have are universal. You know, the interactions translate to everyone everywhere. And you know, we're all married men. We all know how we'd feel. I can imagine the horror of that situation, and it does an amazing job of putting you there, and it's incredibly affecting. I finished it. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to say where it ends up. You know,
in
the
July,
last game,
presumably.
The late you twat. The last game that made me cry was What Remains of Edith Finch, and this one's right up there. Like it builds the emotional layers until you get to that climax, and you'd have to have a heart of stone not to tear up a bit at the end. It's a very special experience, and I'll be probably putting pen to paper on that one for a proper written review because I can't capture from my Switch, probably by the end of this weekend. But you know, I basically just said everything I'm going to say in that review. It's a 5-star game, and it deserves the awards and the accolades it's getting. It's cool because it's one of those games you play it and you're like, yes, this is the fucking evolution of this medium. Do you know what I mean? This is where we're getting with storytelling and emotion in video games. They don't all have to be about shooting and blowing things up. Fuck me, I love those games, and there's some of them are on my list as well here. You know, or driving games or whatever like that. But this is great storytelling. You know, definitely.
Feel like we're allowed to talk about emotion in games now, because there's a while back there where it was a bit of a try-hard subject, wasn't it? It's like, when's the next game that's going to make me have a tear? You know,
well, it's still
a bit more par for the course now. You know, that's what video games are.
A little bit. I still think that they're not. It's not the norm, is it? It's not like how you could go on Netflix and like find 3,000 films that will emotionally affect you easily, like without even trying. games, you still have to seek those experiences out, because most games don't try to give you complex emotions. They want to thrill you, they want to excite you, they want to make you happy. That's predominantly the emotions that you get from games, and that's not that complex, you know. If you like a driving game, you're gonna like a driving game. It's gonna make you happy, you know. It's easy. But no, this was very impressive, like really, really good. I do recommend you guys both check it out. It's really cool. I'd love to know what you thought of it, actually, if you get a chance. It's not that long. Probably like 3 or 4 hours, something like that. You know, so it's a fairly brief experience. And it's on, I want to say it's PC, Switch, perhaps PS4, but not a lot else. I don't think it's not on Xbox. But no, it's very, very good.
Why is it not on Xbox?
Because small studios, you know, ports take time and money, don't they? I suppose. So it probably will end up there. It just isn't yet, I suppose. You know, it probably will, but keep an eye out for it. Any questions about Last Day of June before we move on? Anything you wanted to ask? Nope. Joel's shaking his head.
I looked at the Steam profile page. It looks very pretty. Yeah, I'll probably will check it out sometime. I just have to these games that Heart Reg, like, all focused around the sort of topic of death and things, and really can tug your heartstrings. I have to sort of pace them out a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, what you mean after Train Sim World? You needed a break from the hard emotional impact of video games, Joel. Is that right?
Yes. Is that you segueing into talking about Train Sim World now?
That was indeed, but you've called it out now, so it didn't work.
We always ruin Ben's
I always do it too. Everybody does segues. Everybody ruins segues. It's the way it is. But go on.
What can I say? So freaking listen to the name, Train Sim World. Like, what does that imply? You read that title and I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, it's going to be an entire country, the whole railway network mapped out, and it's going to be every train you could possibly imagine. They're going to have like classic trains, they're going to have the bullet trains from Japan, they're going to have your rusty old classic British rail train, they're going to have, you know, theme trains like Thomas the Tank Engine, all, you know, all these children's trains and crap like this. And that was what that name meant to me when you sent it my way. You were like, do you like simulation games? And I'm like, actually, I do like simulation games. I've played Flight Simulator. I love that. I love playing with random aeroplanes, taking off and trying to land at random airports around the world and stuff like this. Perhaps, you know, I'm not into the whole simulation aspect of sort of pressing every button and doing the whole startup sequence correctly and stuff, but I do enjoy playing these games. So anyway, Train Sim World lands and fire it up, and first tutorials just like, yep, here's your first train. Give it. These are how the buttons work. Let's say you get the ignition started. To say to test the brakes, you get things rolling. So, you know, it's pretty realistic. You get in the driver's seat. I was going to say cockpit. I don't know what you actually call it on a train.
Driver's seat.
The cab. Yeah. And you sit down, and there's, you know, these nicely well recreated layouts of, I assume, what the real inside of this train looks like in the driver's seat, and you've got various buttons and levers, and you have to go through certain startup procedures to get the train started. You have to test the brakes. The brakes work backwards as they work on cars per se. The brakes are always on, and you have to use power to de-apply the brakes basically to get trains moving and stuff. So on that front, it's quite realistic. You've got buttons to open the door, and you know, they're all complemented as well with nice little shortcuts on the controller to make things easy. Yeah, and you get the train moving, and then you get the second tutorial that introduces the second train, and then the third train, and then that's when you realize that's it. There are only free trains to try, free British Rail classic trains. All right, so I can cope with that. Maybe this is a bit early on in the game, so let's try some of these scenarios. So the game offers two sort of play modes. It's got I guess kind of sandbox mode where you can literally sort of select from a select number of trains, like the 6 or, you know, the 6 p.m. journey to here or X or Y, and get on it.
Wow.
Or scenario.
6 p.m. is just the best one.
So yeah, I'll get back to that in a minute. But scenarios, right? The first scenario I did, and this is a story that a driver's running late for work. So I've been drafted in to cover him. To cover the Paddington to Readington's London Paddington to Reading service. So I need to get to Paddington, and it starts you in like, I can't remember, it's like Ealing West or something, which is about 5 miles from Paddington. You have to stand on the platform and wait for a train to arrive. So train turns up, and then you have to get on this train as a passenger, and you have to ride this train as a passenger to Paddington. So then I sat on this train for 20 minutes, and then I was messaging Ben at this point on Messenger saying, I've literally just sat as a commuter on a train for 20 minutes in a game. And then you get to Paddington, and then you have to run across the platform to get to this other train that you actually do have to drive, and then you have to get into it. But then that train doesn't depart for another 15 minutes, so you have to sit in the cab of this train. So about half an hour into this scenario, and I've not actually done anything. But anyway, then I had to start the train up, which I couldn't get the train going faster than like 10 or 15 miles an hour. I couldn't work out why. It's because I'd left the handbrake on, literally. I tried to resolve that problem. The service was about 5 minutes behind, so I drove at full throttle. And there isn't anything to do whilst you're driving these trains. You don't really... There are speed limits in certain sections, but generally it's like leaving the station you depart from and slowing down for the station you're arriving. So literally, and this train was a non-stop to Reading. So I get in the train, I get it up, I adhere to these speed limits for about 1 or 2 minutes, and then it's like, yep, you can go full speed. So I just crank the throttle on full, and then I sit as I wait for it's about a 31-mile journey. So it took about 27 minutes or 35 minutes or so. You had to get there by 8:05. And yeah, I didn't do it. I had a conversation with my wife. I went to the loo. I even got out the driver's seat, and you can go in the back of the train, and you can just walk up and down it, and you can get back in the driver's seat. It literally played with my phone for a while. And then it's a very accurate simulator, is what you say. Yeah, but I think it's the thing that doesn't appeal to it. The simulation aspects of the game, I think people are going to enjoy it. Like when you're starting up your train, like you go through that full sequence, you interact with all the buttons, they all do things. You've even got like the driver's cooling fan and sort of like the heat controls and things like that. You can button to announce the guard. So there's all that sort of realism to it. But then I was kind of expecting once I was on the track that it'd be like, well, stop for red lights. You've got to wait for switches. You've got to talk maybe to signalmen and houses to get track switched and stuff like that. But it doesn't do any of that. It's literally, you get in a train and then you drive, and then you can sort of cycle between a few different cameras to have a look at the pretty view and stuff. Now, on the graphical front, like I say, you zoom outside and the game is glitchy. It's a bit poor. Like I played it on my Xbox One X. The tearing was horrible. So graphical tearing across the whole thing all the time, constantly. Played it on the normal Xbox. The tearing wasn't present on the normal Xbox, but you get lots more different graphical artifacting. Like the draw distance is pretty poor. The track sort of blurs away into sort of this really horrible sort of not very well anisotropic filtering, I think, is what fixes those problems and stuff. So not much of that. And then as you're looking around, the landscape's really kind of basic. The houses are blocky. The textures are kind of average. There's not much detail. So the other thing you're thinking of when I was looking forward to driving a steam train, perhaps on like a Scottish mountainous route or something really beautiful scenery, and it just doesn't have any of that. And yeah, so that was the first scenario, which really set the game up for me. And then beyond that, if you play sandbox mode, like I say, it's literally the only track they have is a 42-mile stretch of track between London and Paddington and a little bit further than Reading, where there's some sort of freight depot. And that is all you can do, drive backwards and forwards on this track in one of 3 different trains. So I opened sandbox mode. I thought I'll take the 7:15 commuter run. I want to see people trying to pack in this train like sardines. And no, there's like Paddington's literally abandoned. There's barely anyone there at 7:15 a.m., which is so unbelievable. And yeah, that's where it fails. I think it's got the foundations of some aspects of what are right and people will be looking for in a simulation, but it's lacking content. It's lacking places to go. The trains that they've picked are not what I would call appealing trains to I would want to drive, for example. I don't want to, when I go to the train station and get on a sort of rusty Great Western Anglian service to London and this old clapped out train, I do not want to drive that train in a game. It's so I gave it 1 star because I felt that pretty poor on that front in general. And
sound funny.
I'm sure I'm probably getting hounded by train sim fans around the world. But
all I can think of is the equivalent in a flight sim game would be like You get a Cessna and you can fly London to Luton, and that's all you can do. It's just like I just
only
don't.
a certain height. You're like, so you can't even see the sort of nice scenery in the distance or anything like that yet.
Ooh. Well, I played a sim game as well, Joel.
Farm sim. Please tell me it was
better. No. Pure farming. 2018. Got to get it right because there'll be a 2019.
Did you feel on your back foot having not played the 2017 edition?
I felt like the original authentic farm machinery licensed in this game was a bit lost on me due to not being a farmer. But I feel like you wouldn't really try and sell a farm simulator game to farmers because they do that every day. I'm not
pretty much how I felt when I reviewed the farm sims.
It's like I'm not
who is playing these, because it's weird, isn't it? The obsession with all the brands. Like who knows?
Turns out, Richard, it turns out a lot of people play these games because they keep making them across multiple brands and different, developers. There's multiple fucking farm sims on the Xbox now.
That come out every year.
I kid you not. Yeah, they come out every year. There's at least 2, possibly more. And this, I mean, what do I say about this? It's just like, I actually at one point say in my review, I go, this game is purely farming in 2018. Because I actually said that in my review because it's like, what else is there to say? I mean, I, unlike Joel, gave it a sort of a benefit of the doubt because I was like, I'm going to give this 3 stars because while I couldn't care less, there are a lot of people that do care. And I think the game that, unlike Train Sim, I think the game that's been produced here does give you a hell of a lot of stuff to do and options. Like, there is a shit ton of different machinery you can get in this game. There are multiple farms all over the world with different produce and livestock. There's loads of things to manage, from your finances to your travel. It's all fucking 1-to-1, mate. Like, and when you've got to drive for 2 miles at a max speed of 12 miles an hour in real time, you feel your soul leave your body. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just like, so the example I gave in the game was I had to go to a field, which I had to harvest the wheat, and then I had to put the wheat in a trailer, and then I had to get my tractor to the trailer and take my wheat for sale 2 miles away at 15 miles an hour, or whatever, 12 miles an hour. And then I had to do that twice, return, do it again, fill it up, take it back. And then with the money I made, I had to then go and buy some new equipment, which involved me driving to the shop another 2 miles at 12 miles an hour. And when I got to the shop and bought these 2 new pieces of equipment, I then had to take each piece of equipment one at a time back to my farm. So back to my farm, back to the shop, back to my farm, back to the shop, back to my farm. So that each time is like, I don't know, 1.5 miles at 12 miles an hour. And that's like 2 hours of my life that I'm never getting back. So this isn't it's not a game for me. I mean, it's really not. But I can, I can see it's
people that it is for. You got to wonder if they need a review.
They're already buying this, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, they're excited. They had it pre-ordered. They wanted the DLC. This actually had pre-order bonuses for this game. It was like some skins for the tractors or something. I don't fucking know. And it was like, you there must be people hyped for this. It was mostly fine. Again, like Train Sim, graphically quite poor. The thing that really stood out to me is when I went to the shop, I reached the edge of the map. And in games in the past, you get to the edge of the map and there'd be like something like a river you couldn't pass or a mountain range you can't go through. In this, it's just a giant white border that made me think I was in the TV show Under the Dome or something. Like, there was literally this white fucking, it looked like the Mist from Stephen King. Is that Stephen King? Literally this giant white border all around me. And I'm looking at it going, first of all, I thought it was Mist. And I tried to drive into it and it just went boom. No. And I'm like, it's a literal wall. So they just cut off the roads and everything with this wall. And I was just like, that has got to be the laziest way of delineating a boundary I've ever seen in a video game. Like, you could have done something a bit more than that. Why?
You know what? Just beyond that boundary, there's a shop. It's nothing to do with farming.
And I was going to say
farming.
I was going to say just beyond that boundary, it's Mexico. So, I mean, like, I played a lot of it in single player, and it's got this weird, like, monologue that sets up the story, I guess. So you're inheriting this farm from your grandfather.
It's like Stardew Valley.
No, well, sort of, but without the fun. So you inherit it from your grandfather, who's like this guy who's into farming. But Dad, who grew up, your dad hated it, and he didn't want you to be a farmer, and he wanted you to work in an office and make money, and he disowned you when you decided you want to become a farmer like your grandfather. And it's this weird, like, preachy, holier than thou attitude about how working with your hands is the real work, and working in an office is like bullshit and not for real and all this. And I was just like, this is like they're going, what the fuck? Is this like some kind of weird political stance that we're getting in this game? It just felt very strange. But the farming's fine. And I got to use various pieces of machinery, which all seemed very realistic. And yeah, it's purely farming in 2018.
So the big difference is that Pure Farming 2018 has content in it.
Yes,
yeah, it's got
unlike Train Sim World, which doesn't. Yeah.
Versus like, the Train World, which doesn't. So
yeah, I mean the fact that there's like these farms all around the world as well, so they are proper different. I just wish there was a bit. It needs a lot of polish, and to be made into like a modern video game. There's a lot lacking from it. But again, you're probably not buying these games for that, are you? You're buying these games to till fields and tend livestock and manage your finances and things like that. Yeah, that's my take on pure farming. Richard, any questions as the farming expert?
No.
Okay, you said that with a lot of definity. I will move on. No. So let's talk about, Richard, you can lead this though. Let's talk about the big game from the last couple of weeks.
The big game. What would
that be? The big game. Ahoy, ye mateys. The big game on board the ships, the Sea of Thieves game. Available exclusive to the Xbox One, but also available on PC as well, and available in Game Pass, which I think is the most important thing to mention before we talk about Sea of Thieves. That you can get that for a 2-week free trial if you don't already subscribe, and if you already subscribe, it's there waiting for you to play right now. So yeah, Rich, lead us off with Sea of Thieves because we've all played it quite a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, Microsoft have gone absolutely mental and given this away for pretty much free with Game Pass, as you say. I don't know why they've done that. I hope it works out for them. But the game itself, it's the first game from Rare for quite a while, or Rare, as we should call them, pirates.
Is that like a pirate suffering from some kind of? He's had too much grog when he's.
Yeah,
that was weird. Okay. Why do we call it? Okay. Sounded more like a tiger. Rawr! Than a pirate.
Okay. In my head, it works because it's like
it's spelled arg.
Rawr.
Like rawr.
Rawr.
Yeah. Like we should move on. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah, you can be a pirate, and you can be a pirate with 3 other mates and fight other pirates and find treasure and steer a boat around and do all piratey things to your leisure for as long as you like or as little as you like. It's a drop in, drop out experience that doesn't really build to very much. It's just really good fun while it lasts. And I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet.
Well, I can tell you how I feel if you like, Richard, because I'm not reviewing it, and you need to be probably a little bit more fair with it if you want. You say you do lots of piratey things. I don't think you do. Pirates were people that would steal from, like, French and English and Spanish vessels. There are none of those in this game. You only have other pirates, and other pirates weren't famously known for attacking other pirates because you'd often go off and set up pirate havens with other pirates rather than fighting them. And I think it's really interesting that the time we played together, that everybody else is talking about how maybe there's not enough combat in this game. But fuck me, was there too much combat when we played that game? It was awful.
We had far too much. I think we we drew the short straw in that session. But yeah, when we all played together, the experience was 2.5 hours of not very much progress at all. But if I just talk about what progress means in this game, you start off on an island with some shopkeepers. They will sell you clothes. They will sell you different hairstyles or personal stylings. and it's all cosmetic stuff. It's the same for the boat and all of the equipment that you use. And there's loads of stuff that you can use. You've got a compass, you've got a bucket for bailing out water from your boat when it's starting to sink. You've got musical instruments, all sorts of different things that you have from the outset. So everyone's starting from a level playing field, and you can upgrade them just with different skins, with the treasure that you find or loot from other pirates. That's good fun, and as long as you've got that loop going where you can go out and find stuff to earn your money or do missions to earn money, like we found some chickens, didn't we? We had to go and deliver some chickens to some dude.
Yeah, just like pirates do. Pirates do that a lot. Yeah, famously finding chickens and pigs. Yeah.
Look, this is not Pirate Sim World, is it? It's Sea of Thieves, so don't worry about it.
Why isn't it Pure Pirate 2018? That's what I need. Pure Pirate 2018. In that case, I'd just be sat on the internet downloading lots of films, I suppose. So it's Pure Pirate 2018. But I don't want to be the negative Nancy, Richard. I just didn't enjoy it that much. It's just like, I can kind of see where the fun can be found in that game, but
this is what I'm getting to. Yeah. So in principle, I think it's a really fun game. It's just the session that we had the other night where we spent 2.5 hours trying to find those chickens and deliver them. We pretty much did that at the end of the 2.5 hours, but there was 2 hours of that session where we made absolutely no progress whatsoever, because any time we actually did something, another boat would turn up and scuttle us. It might have been the same boat, I don't know. But we endured 2 hours of just battle, and this game does not work on the basis of its battles alone.
No, combat's shit.
I wouldn't say it's shit.
The ship-to-ship combat is good. Yeah. The hand-to-hand combat, when you're pirate on pirate or like with your guns, that's terrible. Ship-to-ship is really good fun, actually. Lining up those cannon shots, steering the vessel into like the right ranges and stuff. I really enjoyed that, having to work closely together. But when it's just 4 versus 4, awful fucking pirate on pirate combat, that was just terrible.
Yeah,
like, really
I think they've got to tweak the sword play and the gun play, and neither one of them feels finessed enough to be fun. It's just you kind of bounce off each other, don't you? And end up doing little dances around each other. That's just not fun at all. But if you're lucky enough to get into a session where you're not constantly being chased by other pirate boats, then that sense of exploration and the teamwork was the big thing for me. Every job on the boat is custom made to make you need someone else to help you. You can't just steer a boat and go where you need to go without asking somebody, because the sails are in the way. So you need to ask someone to either move the sails around or go check the map or go up to the prow and see where you're heading and warn you about anything that's on the horizon. You need to work as a team, and that just really works well for me in this game.
Just to that effect, in that 2 hours, 2.5 hours we were playing, I noticed it went from, for example, if I was on the wheel, I'd have to, in the beginning, I'd be like, you need to move the set, you need to do that. And by the end, it was just like, we'd say like, we're going here now, we're going to do this. And everybody would know, we all knew what needed doing, and we'd just do it. And it became this sort of non-verbal thing. And it was just like, just within a couple of hours, that started happening. And it's just like, that's really cool.
Without tutorials, there's no tutorial for that.
By the way, I've heard there's meant to be. It's just a bug that it's not been coming up properly for people when they first play the game.
Well,
whether or not that's true, might need to do a bit more research. But I was on the Reddit for Sea of Thieves, and some people are saying they get tutorials.
I got a very minimal one because I said to you guys I'd logged in for 20 minutes the day before to try and obviously get the tutorial out of the way, so that when we were going to play the next day, that I wouldn't have to hold you guys all back. And yeah, the tutorial is really limited, literally to sort of, this is how you swap your weapon, this is how you open your inventory, select an item, and
didn't even get that.
And then the last bit was like, oh, you get a mission from this person. So I got a mission that's like, put it on the put it on your captain's table on your ship, and that's where it. To be honest, I don't know if that's actually where the tutorial ends. Maybe it bugged out at that point, but yeah, it was really, really scatty. It didn't really. It wasn't coherent and linear.
You don't need anything else, though, do you? I mean, every job that you do on that boat is really simple. So if it's steering the boat, it's just going up to the wheel and pressing X, and then you turn the wheel a bit. That's it. Everything is pretty much a single button job. So you can work it out very, very quickly. And the interplay between your colleagues online, as Ben said, that's easy enough to just work out on the fly, and it evolves very naturally. This is a very easy game to get into. I'm not sure it's quite ready yet. It feels like it's a little bit shaky on its feet, particularly with some lag issues that I had in menus of all things. Just that radial wheel to choose your tools can take a few seconds to load in what the options are. Which seems absurd to me, considering everyone's got the same tools anyway. But yeah, if they can tweak that sort of stuff and make it a bit more reliable, I think it'll be a great experience. With
the game needs more content, doesn't it? I mean,
a little bit, but I agree with Richard. Well, a large portion of when I was playing it and having reflected on our time playing it, I think most of my thoughts are like, if only they did this, or if they changed that to do that. It's kind of more along the lines of, I think they've got the foundations of something there. It just needs, like, for example, I'm just like, why can I only carry 5 bullets for my gun, but I can carry as many cannonballs as I almost like? It's, there are things they could certainly tweak, and it would bring the game alive a bit. And I would like to play it more. I think we had a bit of a bad time of it, because we did play for 2 hours, and I felt like it was fun at points, but I didn't get anywhere. There was that one fight we had with those same guys that just went on, and I think we'd both beached our boats and run out of cannonballs, and it was just literally a pointless battle with everyone just constantly respawning on their own ship and then just coming across and steadily killing each other. It got to the point where it literally just like, I just want to die and respawn now. As in, die away from you. I want the ship to, just kill us, because this isn't fun. The combat isn't fun at all, is it? Player versus player combat.
Yeah.
But my highlight was Richard getting in the cannon and then me shooting him all over the enemy ship off into the sea. Like, I personally enjoyed that moment. Like,
I saw you angle it, and I was going, no, it's too high, man. It's too high. And you fired him anyway. I was like, yep, too high.
Well, there was another highlight as well, actually, thinking of it, Ben, where we crashed into land, and it was like, Ben, why the hell didn't you steer the boat? And you're just like, I died, guys. I died.
Yeah, you didn't even realize I wasn't there.
You died, and you didn't say, you didn't say it loud enough that you died.
You should pay more attention. So there are stories. It is one of those emergent gameplay games. It's a little bit like this is frightening to say. It's like Destiny with less content. Who thought that was possible? But it kind of has that vibe of hanging out with your mates, playing some shit together. I think, like you said, we had a bad roll, as it were, in that server. So maybe going forward it'd be better. I don't know. I mean, like I said, as long as I have Game Pass, I have this game. So it's like you can watch it evolve and change and come back to it. It's a tricky one for you to review, Rich. I really do think that's hard. It's like how much you talk about potential compared to the reality of it right now. Do you know what I mean? It's like
it's just so far out of kilter with what we expect from games. You talk about the lack of content, and Destiny's got more content than this, but Destiny makes you grind for that content. That's the point.
And this is the same. I don't think this is everyone.
I don't think that's what this is for. This is for casual drop-in sessions when you feel like playing the game for half an hour.
If you've watched any videos with developers talking about it, which I've watched a couple, they often reminisce about when you were a kid playing pirates.
Yeah,
and that's what this is. It's whimsical and silly and a literal sandbox, in the sense of when you were a kid playing in a sandbox playing pirates.
Yeah,
and I mean that's kind of what they've tried to convey with this experience, and it's a very curious one. It's very, very interesting. Yeah,
they've got a lot of faith in their product here, because they don't lock any content away for you to think, right, I've got to play this to unlock that. You've just got all of it. So they've got a lot of faith to say, right, this is the game. You've got all of it from the first second you start. That is enough for you, and that will hold your attention. Not sure that it will, but it's a very bold move in any case, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to respect him for that, for the attempt. But no, I look forward to your review. I know you'll give it a lot of thought, and I look forward to playing some more of it. Sort of, I do. No, I do want to play more of it. I do want to play more of it, because I feel like there is more there. Like those missions we were playing, that fucking merchant missions are.
They're the worst, aren't
boring. They're meant to be the worst, and it's a boring concept. And we were basically playing the first one, which is like the tutorial one.
Yeah.
And I suspect things get better. I hope they get better and more interesting. So maybe we need to experiment with that a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm gonna knock off a few here from my list. I'm gonna be very brief with Dynasty Warriors 9 because it's Dynasty Warriors 9. So
Quite
amazingly
different to the rest.
Yeah, worse.
Somehow
worse. Yeah. So Dynasty Warriors have always been to me. I've not played a huge amount of them. I don't know about you, Richard. Maybe you've played a few. I don't know.
No.
But Dynasty Warriors is this idea: big, massive battles, stupid amounts of enemies. You wade in, you kill thousands of dudes with you're in a few minutes. And then you get to the next one. You get to the next one. You control points. You push forward. You take areas and that sort of thing, right? So that's what Dynasty Warriors has always been to me. It's simple, throwaway. There's a massive fan base for it, turns out, because they're on to number fucking 9. But always been a bit loose, always been a bit overly accessible, that kind of experience.
There's more than 9, really, isn't there? Because they got spin-off.
Yes. Oh no, I'm just talking about the core. The Dynasty Warriors thing, they've done that. They did the Zelda one. They've done loads of other tie-in ones for the Fire Emblem, Aslan.
Was that Fist
of the North Star? Probably. Yeah, there was the Gundam ones. There's been fucking millions. I'm just talking 9 in the core franchise.
Yeah.
But with 9, what they've tried to do is introduce a more kind of traditional Western style open world environment. And the main thing that's done, other than being big, empty, and fucking ugly, is that it's made it take a long time for you to get between the battles. So you're riding on your horse for what feels like for ages, though I'm sure it's not that long, but when all you want to do is fight shit, it feels like a long time, just to get to a conflict. I don't understand why they did it. I really don't. It's an ugly, ugly place. This representation of ancient China, because of course it's the Yellow Turban Rebellion, because they all are Yellow Turban Rebellion. It's the same story it's been for all 8 games previous, though the first game was actually a fighting game, so weirdly, but yeah, it's got loads of systems. There's loads of trading and training and all kinds of weird RPG elements. And then there's a battle map where you're in the previous battles in Dynasty Warriors games, they were a much smaller scale. So you could understand the battle map and how, you're taking these points and pushing your influence further into the map and stuff like that. And they were fairly contained. Now the battle map is this whole open world. And you're riding for forever between it just feels like super unfocused, like this giant mess of a concept. Maybe they'll iterate on it with the next one and make it better. This doesn't look like an Xbox One game either. It just is bad character models, terrible voice acting, awful dialogue, boring combat, bad traversal mechanics.
It's such a weird thing to do, isn't it? I don't know if you could describe this as a reboot, but normally with a reboot, you kind of strip stuff back. You have a core idea and you make that work. And that's your platform to build the next games and keep people interested in how it develops from there. But this sounds just bloated.
Yeah.
More so than even all the rest, but just reinvented bloat. Odd.
No. I'm going to move on to a couple of other quick ones because they're both remasters, as it were, or HD remakes or whatever you want to call them. Burnout Paradise is still fucking awesome. You'll be happy to know. Yep. Did you like it before, Rich?
Loved it.
Then you'd love this. It's the whole thing, all the DLC, 4K, 60 frames, runs buttery smooth, no hiccups. I mean, yeah, textures look a bit dated and stuff like that. It doesn't look as beautiful as a Forza Horizon 3 does. No way. But it runs great. The sense of speed is still there. And I was playing it earlier today, and you start to get into the rhythm. It's a bit different. It feels a bit dated now, I suppose. There's some sort of ideas in there that have evolved quite a lot now with the open world racing genre. The map is pretty useless when it comes to trying to work out where you want to go to do an event. It's much more just do the one that's near you. Just go to the thing that's nearby, rather than doing anything specific. So the progression feels a bit dated, but man, it's still fun. It's still fast, fun, intense. crazy racing. That just makes you wish that they'd do a new one. Like, stop making Criterion make crappy Need for Speed games and let them make a new Burnout, because it's just better. It's just better. A modern Burnout could be fantastic. I don't care about you having car licenses. I really don't. And of course, what it means when you have car licenses is you can't destroy the cars to the same degree we get in Burnout. So just forget about fucking having Porsche and Audi and whatever else. Let them make their own cars. Let them break them up using up-to-date graphical technology, because trust me, they look good in this. They'd look even better if you made a new one today, wouldn't they? So it looks stunning, Crashes. Amazing. So that's all I want. I want a new Burnout. Make me a new Burnout. This game, it's great fun.
They will? Do you think they will?
I imagine
this out. I suppose they're toying with the idea, aren't they?
You know what happened last week? I think it was last week or the week before. This game was the #1 selling best game in the UK.
Get out.
Yep.
I thought it
so
was
Burnout
overpriced
top.
as well. It's quite
Burnout top the charts. Yeah. So
quite expensive, isn't it? Considering.
Is it? How much is it? I didn't.
35?
I'm looking there. I think that's fair. There's a lot of content in this game. There's all the DLC. I mean, the thing is, though, the problem is Burnout Paradise is back compat already on Xbox One. Obviously, this game isn't just out on Xbox One. It's out on PS4 as well, which is the primary console on which you can't play the old Burnout. But I don't think on Xbox there's that many improvements. You could still play that 360 version back compat and have a great time, because it's still the same game. It just looks a little sharper in 4K. It looks a little bit quicker. It runs a little bit better. But that 360 game is still good.
It's not 35 quid better, is it? Because I think the 360 one was on Games for Gold as well. So lots of people will already have that.
Yeah, but remember, the Xbox One is in second place, and the PS4 has a much larger install base. And I feel like that's why this exists. It's for the PS4 players. And it plays really good. The other remaster I've been playing, I think it's remaster, or it could be anniversary edition, something like that. Random ass game that showed up on Xbox. Titan Quest. Do either of you remember Titan Quest?
No.
I do. I technically, when you messaged me and said you played Titan Quest, I thought it was a typo, because that game I played on the PC about 10 or 12 years ago.
Yep.
It's like an old Diablo style click and sort of loot shit.
Isometric top-down action RPG. Yeah. And it's that game. It just looks a bit better. I think they've done quite a lot of work on this, to be honest. The assets are much more high res. Everything looks a lot better than if you just directly ported it does anyway. But yeah, it's got some holdover things like quite poor inventory management and slightly awkward menu interfaces and things like that. But when you actually just walking around this Greek mythologically set action RPG, playing as this, sort of Greek/Roman centurion type character, murdering monsters and creatures and bandits and robbers and all that kind of stuff. It's old school. It's got a bit of a Diablo vibe to it. It doesn't have quite as good, say, mobility as Diablo 3 does. The dodge roll comes to mind in Diablo 3, which is a brilliant conceit on consoles. But you don't have that in this. But if you're in the mood for that kind of classic RPG experience, it ticks the boxes. It's got a fun story, lots of quite well-written dialogue, good voice acting throughout. It's a nice anniversary edition. It's a well-done remaster. You can tell a lot of work has gone into it. A lot of love has gone into it, because it is a fairly obscure game, because everybody just thinks of Diablo when they see this genre. They don't really think of Titan Quest. I believe it had a sequel as well, didn't it? There was a Titan Quest 2. I feel like I played
lots of add-ons for it on the PC. They went from Greek mythology, Chinese mythology, they went all over the place. Lots of those old mythologies they scooped up and made add-ons for it.
So it has multiplayer. This is my only gripe with it. It has multiplayer, but it doesn't currently have couch co-op multiplayer, which I'm hoping they bring in. They're saying they're working on it right now. They're going to patch that in. It doesn't have all the add-ons in there yet either. They're going to be bringing them in as well. I believe as part of the price. I don't think these will be paid DLC from what I was reading from the developer. But they're working on it. They're working on it. But I'd like to be able to sit, I was quite excited to play this with the wife. The wife really likes playing Diablo with me. And I was like, I'll play this together. It'd be great. We can sort of you can help me with the review and stuff. And it's like, oh, you can't do it next to each other. Oh, that's a shame. But no, I'm enjoying it. It's good. It's a 10-year-old's nicer looking isometric RPG ported well to consoles with a good controller interface, I suppose. It's not bad. It could definitely be worse. Richard, you need to go fairly soon, don't you?
Soonish.
Okay, so I'll go to you. I want to know how much hot lesbian action is available in Fear Effect Sedna.
I'm thinking you might want to skip this one because I've not played enough of it to really tell you. I played it today and I hit an absolute brick wall in the tutorial.
Brilliant. That is what I remember of Fear Effect, though, to be fair. I always remember those games being bollocks hard and lesbians.
It's just complete bullshit. It says in this game, well, I'll tell you what it is first, right? You've got cartoony cutscenes because this game was always known for its really well animated cutscenes back in the day when it appeared on, I think it's PS1 first, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it looked nice then. It looks kind of nice now, but not nice enough to be like impressive. But it's an isometric sort of shooter in the style of those Lara Croft games that came out a couple of years back. So Temple of Osiris.
The isometric top-downy action ones, twin sticks ones. Yeah.
So it's not the same perspective as the original games then. I remember that being a tight-in game.
That's what I thought. So I thought the original game was much more like Resident Evil style.
OG Tomb Raider rather than remake Tomb Raider.
No, Resident Evil had like fixed perspective backgrounds, didn't it? And I thought Fear Effect was a bit like that. I can't really remember the original very well, but this is an isometric shooter like those Tomb Raider ones.
Okay.
Not original Tomb Raider, the isometric ones. So it's basically exactly the same as that. So you've twin sticks, so you run around, you shoot with you aim with the right stick and you shoot with the trigger. You can roll across the floor, hide behind cover, press buttons to open doors and whatever. And there's two of you. So there's two women. You can switch between the women by pressing the left bumper. And you can queue up your actions as well. So it's a little bit like, what's that Supergiant game? Transistor, where you can either play it like live, real time, or you can queue up your moves and do that across the two characters. So kind of like a Mass Effect vibe where you can just
makes me think of the original Dragon Age is what that reminded me of. What you were describing.
So you can work out your strategy, choose where your character is going to run to, what cover they're going to hide behind, who they're going to aim at, and then press the button and watch it all play out. But my feeling for it so far is that doesn't really feel authentic. It just feels a little bit sloppy. So I think I'll play it a bit more and I'll play it more in real time. But I've just hit this absolute brick wall where it's talking to you about, right, this is how you press buttons, this is how you shoot people, this is how you reload, fine. And then it says, right, you'll also have puzzles in this game. So go over to this cargo crate and there's a bomb in it. Defuse the bomb. And fucked if I know how to defuse the bomb. Don't really tell you unless I've just missed something. But there's wires, obviously, and there's flashing lights. And you press a button to cut one of the wires and it explodes. And it's like, oh no, the two lesbians exploded. Try again. So and you try again and you cut one and you think, oh, that's fine, right? It's let me cut one. I'll try and cut another. No, I've exploded again. I feel like I've done every combination of these wires. So I guess it's a timing thing. But this is the introduction. It should be easy. This should be telling me how this works. But I'm stuck. So already this game is leaving a sour taste.
Strangely, this is kind of what I remember the original Fear Effects. It's like, oh, hot lesbian babes, but then punishingly obscure, difficult kind of game that didn't really make it very clear as to what you should be doing. So I never got further than like the first level.
Yeah, that.
It does remind me of that. Yeah. So authentic then.
Yeah.
What you want from it
so far? Do you want a bit more Rad Rodgers? Because I have played that.
Go on.
Actually, Rad Rodgers is another throwback to 90s gaming. Not a remake, and it's a new game, but heavily influenced by 2D platformers of the 90s. It's the most boring, uncharismatic lead character that I can remember since Magic Pockets on the Amiga, if you think back that far. Nope. And the Mick and Mac Global Gladiators McDonald's game. It's kind of like them, where it's a guy he's like 8, 9 years old or something, and he's supposed to be really cool, and he's got a console in his bedroom, and he doesn't turn it off like his dad tells him to, so he gets sucked into the TV at night, obviously, and he's in the game with his console somehow, playing on his console. So I don't know how that works, but that's the setup.
Sounds like the Jumanji film.
Yeah, all right, okay. Jumanji then. And you shoot stuff. It's a platform shooter, and it just feels really sloppy. There's no real heft to the movement. The jumping feels a bit weak. Did you ever play that Max game that came out on the Xbox One when it launched? Curse of Brotherhood, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine that. I think that game got away with it because it had some quite clever puzzle systems, and it was charming in its own way. I enjoyed that game a lot, but the platforming stuff didn't feel great, did it? It feels a little bit like that. And the real test of a platforming game is when it asks you to swing on ropes. This has no sort of physics model at all on the ropes. You just hold in one direction, and it will start randomly swinging from wherever it starts in the animation, and you fly off at what feels like a random speed and direction. It's just really, really sloppy. And the styling of it, just the setting, is sort of teeth-gnashingly cringy sometimes. It sets itself up as a mature game. So the first thing it presents you with is a choice. Do you want your kids to be able to play this, or do you want to have some smutty content? Which amounts to meeting NPCs that will give you diamonds or whatever, and when they give you the diamonds, they'll say that they've just had it on their ass, or they didn't want you to come in the room because they were masturbating a minute ago, and just sort of really cringy stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not really feeling it. It obviously wants to be in the same sort of echelons as Mario and Sonic because it keeps mentioning them, as if that gives it some credibility because it harks back to the 90s. It's really not as good as any of those games. Yeah, it's just kind of mediocre. It's fine. It kind of works, but very mediocre game.
Okay. Well, now that the phone's ringing, I suppose you did the second phone to ring. You have like multiple phones ringing in your house, Richard? I mean, what's going on? He's muted himself.
He has a landline.
He has like 3 landlines.
Who has landlines?
Just on what's going on. I feel like he actually lives in an office, is what it sounded like a little bit.
He has been moving the job centre, he said recently, hasn't he? He's just moved it home.
House. That is the most efficient way of doing it.
Loads of people in his living room just at desks working.
Fastidiously working away at the next review he's told them they have to do. God, not Rad Rodgers, please. It's so fucking generic. Tell them that on the podcast. I think you know what you're talking about. So yeah, so that it does. I just give you the best games, Rich. It's just the way it is. Clearly, it's a bit depressing when Sea of Thieves is the best thing you've played in the last couple of weeks. I apologize for that. One thing I want to do before Richard goes is because Richard's done all these things on the show notes where he's got like this whole what I'm calling Richard's Game Pass corner because he plays all the Game Pass games. So hopefully we'll have a moment so he can actually talk about that. But I want to touch upon The Council, episode 1, Bad Wolf. I think is it Bad something? The first episode was cool. Let me check that actually. In real time, what was it called? I can't. No, sorry. It's made by Big Bad Wolf. That's the name of the developer. And I believe the first episode was called The Mad Ones. That's where I got confused. So The Council is weird. The Council is this dialogue and narrative-driven episodic adventure game in the sort of vein of a Telltale game. But I'd say, a very different style to the Telltale games, not sort of cel-shaded, cartoony, a little bit reminiscent of like a Dishonored kind of game with that kind of caricature visuals, so that, big over-the-top chins and big eyes sometimes on characters, sort of, really heightened appearances to them that help sort of set them apart, give them distinct silhouettes. And The Council is set in the sort of 1700s Europe, and you play this sort of young-ish aristocrat-type character called Louis de Richet, so I believe of French descent. And your mother happens to be the leader of this sort of important secret society. And then she goes missing and you don't know where she's gone. Well, she's been at this sort of like meeting / party for this sort of aristocratic guy on this island. So you go to investigate, and you're basically in the first episode introduced to this very diverse cast of characters, including like such luminaries as George Washington and Napoleon Bonaparte. And it's basically all about talking to these characters, manipulating characters, investigating, trying to find out what's happened to your mum, and delving deeper into the sort of darker machinations of this secret society and this group. I've got to be very vague here because the whole point of this game is the story, is the narrative, is those character interactions. So I don't really want to spoil any of that. However, it's compelling stuff. It's different. It's interesting. I want to see where we go with episode 2 and stuff. I'm really looking forward to playing that. And finding out where the story is taken. The thing that I found was that because it's quite a unique game with quite a unique sort of conceits and setup, they've had to introduce a lot of different types of gameplay mechanics. And the first episode really throws them at you. The different ways in which you manage your inventory and the kind of things that will buff your sort of speech check abilities, that, you know, these abilities that can force sort of answers from characters. And you have to understand how best to sort of push a character. Do you appeal to their ego? Do you threaten? Do you use your position in society? Do you, talk to them with deference? And there's lots of different mechanics, and there's an RPG leveling system. And because it's the first episode, these things are thrown at you very rapidly, and it's a little bit confusing, a little bit bewildering. And it's got this sort of permanence to this game as well. It's like the decisions you make, the dialogue options you choose will be permanent. They will have ramifications. They will affect how these characters see you and interact with you. And there's no going back. There's no backsies. So, there is that slight feeling of if you fuck up, you're fucked up for good. And these different effects can affect you physically. They can affect your character mentally as the episodes progress. And in the vein of a Telltale, Big Bad Wolf here are talking a big game, about choice and ramifications and the effect it will have on the conclusion. We will see as the season progresses if these things pay off. It's definitely a unique setting and a unique idea, and I'm intrigued enough to stick with it. However, Telltale famously, starts at that one point, balloons out with all the choices, and then because you've got to tell a story with a beginning and a middle and an end, then it all comes back to a very finite endpoint, which is the sort of the same for everyone, regardless of the choices you make. So I'll be curious to see if with this we actually do get a proper diverse selection of choices that result in specific endings. Curious game. Cool to see more developers experimenting with the kind of the dialogue based adventure format, not just Telltale with their myriad licenses. This is a unique property, and the setting is pretty compelling and stuff if you're at all into sort of European history. To see these different characters, especially things like George Washington and young Napoleon and all of that. It's very cool interacting with them. Yeah. Anything you guys wanted to ask me about that council episode 1?
9.
No. Great. Cool. You just can. Okay. Fine. Don't make my job any easier. I see how it is. Joel, I gave you a game to review, The Raven, right? And this is a remaster. I don't remember this game at all ever coming out. Do you guys know The Raven?
I haven't done research into it yet.
But you don't remember it, do you? Because I don't remember.
I think it might be an old. Well, I think it might be one of those very old point and click adventures from around the 90s. I've not researched it. That's my guess. So this is a remaster of. Can you call them point and click adventures anymore? Because it's not on a PC. You literally use the controller to sort of amble around and hammer A at everything possible that you see to see if it all has any interaction options or anything. But yeah, still historically they're point and click adventures. I've played it for a couple of hours. It's I think it's set in the 1920s or 30s. Sort of a pleasant tale of a sort of a thief who they believed had previously been killed, who might have come back. It might be a copycat who's done some recent crimes, and it starts off with you on the Orient Express whilst they're sort of trying to set up a trap to entice him. After having stolen one piece of treasure, there's a sort of matching second jewel that they think he'll come after. And yeah, it's kind of There's a few little twists in the story as it goes from there. You play the role of this sort of Swiss policeman who's sees this opportunity. He's sort of as a way to try and make his career working with some more famous detectives and things. Characters to chat to. It's reasonably well presented, nice dialogue so far. It's got those point and click things where sometimes you literally just got you got loads of items in your inventory and you keep sort of just trying to see certain things at work. It's not always 100% clear, but so far, yeah, I'm quite enjoying it. I think I'm just about to I'm probably about a third of the way through the game, I think. So I'll be hopefully getting that finished off over the next week. All good so far. Any questions?
As I have no knowledge of the thing it's based on, I would struggle to ask questions. But I mean, does it do anything in the adventure game genre to like modernize interaction with the environment, or is it literally just click on everything and pray and try and combine things in various ways?
It's all fully 3D, except it plays from fixed camera perspectives. Think Resident Evil, I guess, but with the rather than using pre-rendered backgrounds, it's all 3D and stuff. And not really. I don't think I've not seen anything other than sort of slightly, I guess, improved animation and character movement and stuff and lighting, but that's about it, just on the graphical front, really. Okay.
So Richard, before you go then, we might be wrapping it up in general actually, but before we do that, you've gone back and played a butt ton of old games.
Absolute butt ton, indeed.
I want to know about Nier before you get onto Game Pass stuff, though, because how much of Nier have you played?
More than you. I checked your trophies today. I'm past where you are. I don't think you've got beyond the desert. Am I right?
I think I just finished the desert.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've played quite a lot of it today, more than I intended to do because I was enjoying it a lot. And it does some clever stuff. It's platinum, isn't it? So it feels systems-wise like Bayonetta. Probably a little bit simpler in terms of the combos that are available to you. But there's a lot more to this game, narratively speaking. It's interesting to follow where I've gone so far, and I really want to know where it goes because the reputation of this game is it's got a really, really strong narrative that survives like 6 or 7 playthroughs. So I don't know how far I'll go with it, but I'm really enjoying it so far. It plays with you in terms of the enemies that it puts in your way. It starts to make you think, should I be killing these guys? And there's not many games that do that. I suppose Shadow of the Colossus is the big one, but that does it because there's 16 enemies and they're all unique and huge and really emotive in how they move and respond to what you're doing to them. This somehow achieves a similar effect with legions of really basic looking robots. They look like the Android logo, just little tubby round headed fellas with nothing to set them apart from each other really. But it starts playing with that basic sort of design. The further you get in, it starts having them talk to you, and you're followed around by this fella who's telling you, don't worry about what they say. They're just robots. They're just using words. They don't really understand what they're saying. It's just repeating stuff. They haven't got feelings. Chill out. And they start talking more and more, and they start talking in ways that make sense in terms of what's happening and where they are and what's happening to them. And you start to feel a little bit shitty about
wearing clothes and implying society and all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, like being in family units. There'll be a big one and then a shorter one that are described as father robot and mother robot, and they've got a little cradle next to them, and you think, what the fuck? What have they got feelings? What am I doing here? And they're not always even hostile. They're not hostile until you attack them. And that ramps up. I don't know if you've seen the amusement park yet.
I can't remember. I'd have to go back. Maybe not.
You'd probably remember if you saw it. So they get more and more humanized, more anthropomorphized to the point that you really feel you should not be killing these things. And it's not that it really gives you a choice. There are points in this where I thought, no, I don't want to kill that dude. I'm not going to do it. And you just wait. You just wait. And you check the mission log and it says, no, you got to kill a dude. And I'm like, fuck. It just feels horrible, but you've got to do it. You've got to complete your mission because you're being told as an android yourself, working for I can't remember what it's called, some League of Humanity or something. Humanity has been banished to the moon by robots, and you're supposed to be taking the Earth back on their behalf. And you're told, right, that there are no good robots. You've just got to kill all of them. So don't worry about it. If they pretend to be nice, they're not. Kill all of them. But you just feel so terrible doing it.
It's a bit reminiscent of some of the moral quandaries you get from like Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like that. Exactly, yeah. But the world that you're in as well, it's not anything like I expected, because I played the demo of this a while back, and that was your traditional 3D combat thing like Bayonetta, where it would just be a discrete, shortish, tunneled level. You get to the end, gives you a grade, then you do the next one. But this is pretty much open world. Every area is interconnected. There's side missions to pick up from NPCs dotted around the map. There's plenty of reasons to go back to places, and it all feels lived in. It the world that you're in, it reminds me of something like what was that game that was based on Monkey?
Enslaved?
Enslaved, that's it. It feels like Enslaved, with all these decrepit skyscrapers and trees growing through them, and there's desert areas. Feels a bit like that, or bits of the Last of Us. Got that sort of lived in, broken down environment sort of feel.
Well, now that one of you others are playing it, maybe I'll go back to it if I can find the time as well, because I think it's something that bears looking at. Now, you've got too many things listed here, Richard. I'm going to ask you to pick one, your favourite.
Right. I'm torn between the Swapper and Hue, because they're both fantastic.
They're both amazing games.
They are. Yeah.
I think we've talked about Swapper a fair bit on this show before, because I think Joel, you've rinsed.
Yeah, I picked it up. Great puzzler.
Yeah. So if anyone hasn't played the Swapper, don't be like me and ignore everyone recommending it for 2 years. Just go and play it now. It's amazing.
Really is.
Hue, I wasn't expecting really anything from Hue. I thought it would be one of those Braid wannabes, but actually really good in its own right. It's another 2D platformer. It starts off in a black and white world. You pick up a color, and when you activate that color, that changes the sky behind you. So the sky becomes blue. But that's the fundamental mechanic of the game, is changing colors to change the environment. So, for example, if you find a blue door and you want to go through that door, turning the sky blue ain't going to help you, because if the sky matches the color of the door is not there. You use colors to block things out in this game. So you might want to push a block, but you're on the opposite side of it and you can't get there. So what you'd have to do is change the sky to the color of the block, walk through it, change it to another color, then the block reappears and you can push it from the other side. And there's all sorts of layered puzzles like that based on swapping colors, some time based, and it does a really clever job of using all of the different palette that you gradually uncover to build some quite complex but achievable puzzles. And I kind of pretty much did it in a couple of sit-ins. I think I didn't stop very long.
Got a nice little story as well, what I remember.
Yeah, so you're looking for your mum, because she's been doing some research at the university into colors and how people see colors potentially in different ways. So how I see blue is different to how you see blue, and she's found herself trapped between colors somehow, and so she doesn't exist in the world anymore. And yeah, it's quite a nice little conceit You're uncovering all of these colors gradually through the game, getting closer to the gap in the spectrum where your mum might be. It's really quite touching, actually, when you get to the end. And yeah, but aside from that, the game itself is fun. All of the puzzles really work well.
Yep, I checked it out about when I got my Game Pass subscription at the start of the year. Yeah, I remember I don't think I beat it, but I did enjoy it at the time I spent with it. Yeah, same with the Swapper. I'm trying to remember. I think I beat that like many moons ago. I don't really remember.
It's quite old, the Swapper, right? Oh, well, I think it's a couple of years old. But both those games are not only great puzzlers, they're amazingly polished, well presented, and like the soundtracks that go for both of them are really complimentary and brilliant, and you know they're just perfectly well done games. I think they're brilliant. I've given both 5 stars personally.
So I think that brings us to the end of episode 43 of Bxb'S Bits and Bobs. It's bit over 2 hours. It's been a long one, guys, but I think we had a lot of shit to cover and stuff because Richard being away and things like that. And there's so many games to play. So many games. I know in another 2 weeks' time, but one of the games we'll be talking about will definitely be Far Cry 5. I feel that's inevitable. Though, Richard, I mean, I was talking to you about this the other night. You've never played a Far Cry game before.
I have. I bought Far Cry 2. I bought Far Cry 3. I played them both for maybe a couple of hours and just bounced off them.
Interesting.
Main reason being they just shit out content onto the map like Ubisoft games do. Far Cry 5 doesn't do that. So...
Supposedly not, no. So, and it's an interesting setting. Maybe this will be the time you get hooked in a bit to it, maybe.
Maybe. I've got some credit to spend. Guys at work got me some Xbox credit, so I'm looking to spend it on something. And there's
there you go.
Out, so I might get that.
Not big releases. And Joel, how do you feel about the Far Cry games? Have you?
The only one I played is Far Cry, the original, which was
that's the only one.
DirectX 9 tech demo for the PC. Really, that was back when Doom and Half-Life 2 and Far Cry, I think, all launched. It was a very good, pretty tropical island game.
I love that original game. Absolutely adored it. My God, I played it so much.
Never played any of the others. I've got a friend who likes them, but yeah. So Far Cry 5, a bit, I'm interested, but I'm not going to pre-order it. I'll wait and see, get some feedback, see what people think.
That's fair. That is fair. Beyond that, I'm not 100% sure what else is going on in the next 2 weeks, guys. Anything else that you guys are aware of that you might be on your horizons?
You sent me another game to review. I can't remember what it was called. Something Beast.
Sent you.
I think it's a sort of RPG style, action RPG kind of game. I think Elder Scrollsy like, but perhaps without the scope. That was my initial thoughts from looking at a video without any sound. So don't hold me to that.
And I will try and send Richard any more smutty games we get because he's now the smutty editor. I think that's.
God, is that my new role?
The smutty editor. Can you have Lego back? No, no, I do Lego now. I've taken it. Like I've taken farming from you as well for some unknown reason. I've tortured myself. Well, we'll have. I guess we got more Formula One, WrestleMania, and lots of stuff like that happening as well. And great. Well, I guess there's movies, isn't there as well? Ready Player One will be out, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to that. And it won't be long. There'll be Han Solo and Infinity War as well, end of April. So it's all going on in media, isn't it? Oh yeah, good times. Right, so episode 43, and I think that's it. So we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye, people.